and the local flankers cover all the bases. Lost in the battle of solitude and ordinance there, with partisan coordinates to proceed.
I am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Good evening. Nah, it's morning. It's morning. I guess it's evening somewhere around the world. It is Friday the 13th. Yes, bad luck, bad news. You get all that today and more or less, depending on what you like. It is a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. We'll get to that shortly. All's quiet on YouTube. Rumble and Rockfin. As we said, Rockfin, as of July 1st, we will not be on Rockfin doing live shows anymore. The videos will still be up, but we won't be doing live shows on there anymore starting July 1st. Rockfin has gone to all premium. They won't allow you to do free shows. So if you're not a premium member, you can't watch anything on Rockfin now. So Rockfin going down the toilet, really. And I'm kind of glad to get away. It'd be one less thing to worry about too. I know we have a couple people that are kind of regulars on there, but I haven't seen them lately. So I'm assuming they're not premium members. And hopefully they'll come over to Rumble or YouTube or even Facebook. And I'm not quite sure how long I'm going to be on doing these on Facebook too. We seem to get somebody every once in a great while pop in on Facebook. It's like, is there a bathroom around here? I'm lost. Can you help me? That sort of thing. So yeah, July 1st. And July 1st also is the 1-year anniversary of this show. So we'll have it's going to be on a Tuesday, July 1st. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do, if we're going to do something special, or if we're just going to do regular ass news, probably just regular ass news, and just say, hey, happy birthday. We'll do it like TV. We'll wrap up our first season of Morning Extra. So you got Peace Dove in the house. What's up? I know, right? Friday the 13th. Clown. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show, Intergalactic, another dimension. Good to see you, Bob. Got Max RJ in the house, and Bella lurking somewhere in the midst there. Good to see all y'all. Hopefully you're having a good day. It's a little cloudy out there. I think we're supposed to be getting some rain here in the Chicagoland area pretty soon. It's been really humid, you know? I mean, it's just, not like super humid where you walk outside and the humidity just beats you right in the face as soon as you open the door. But, it is a stark contrast to that dry weather you get during winter, right? Very, when the thing with dry air, it's, you tend to get dry skin with that. You get a lot of the itchies. And then with the humidity, you get you don't really get the dry skin so much as you get just soaked in wet, hot hate most of the time. Hang on a second. I'm gonna do a little something. This thing's bugging me. OCD. Easy as 1, 2, 3. So let's see. Okay. I think we're good on all of the announcements so far. All that stuff's down here too, in the ticker thingy, the little tickery dickory dock thing. So, and I'm not even ready. I'm sitting there doing the but now I'm ready. All right. Commissary Kate. Easy as 1, 2, 3. In Chicago, summers are Lake Michigan. Alive humidity. I don't know what that is. But yeah. Anytime you're near a body of water, I've grown up with humidity, except in California. I lived in Southern California. There was no humidity there. Every once in a while, you would get it in Southern California. Like I remember before I moved out of there, there was like a 2-day stretch where we had humidity, and people were going nuts. They thought they were in the fucking jungle. It was like slight humidity. It was crazy. Alewife. CBC voter, what's up? Good morning to you. Hopefully you're doing well. Alewife. I don't know. I still don't know what that means, Kate. You speak in riddles. But anytime you're near a big body of water like Michigan or the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic, you're going to get that humidity. Whoo, New York, man. As thick as thieves there. So, but enough about all that. I'm not that guy from what is it? I can't, what is it? Who's the guy that does the morning weather, and he did all the birthdays and stuff like that? I can't remember that guy's name. He was on the Today Show. Anyway, I'm not that guy, because I think that guy might be dead. I could be wrong. Well, we knew it was going to happen, folks. Iran, Israel's been saying they want a piece of Iran for some time. CJK, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. And now things have come to loggerheads, as it were. Iran and Israel at war. Here we go. Israeli warplanes continued operations across Iran today, targeting Iranian nuclear facilities, army bases, missile storage sites, and, of course, residential neighborhoods as part of Operation Lion's Courage. At least 78 people have been confirmed killed and 329 injured by Iranian news outlets. So here's some of the stuff going on here. This is some of the bombing there. You get the gist. Tehran has suspended all domestic and international flights, according to the Civil Aviation Authority, as Israeli strikes continued this morning across various cities, including Tabriz, Kermanshah, Hamadan, Qasr el-Shirin, and Gangavar. With this crime, Israel has prepared a bitter and painful fate for itself, and it will inevitably face it and must await severe punishment, for the powerful arm of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran will not leave it alone, God willing, Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei said following the start of the U.S.-Israeli war. The people of Iran, I guess that should be Iran-Israeli war. The people of Iran and the country's officials will not remain silent in the face of this crime, and the legitimate and powerful response of the Islamic Republic of Iran will make the enemy regret their foolish actions. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said in a message today, Iranian drones have been reportedly shot down over the skies of several Arab nations on their way to Israel. We'll have more on that shortly. The Iranian military is reportedly preparing a significant ballistic missile attack in retaliation. Remember, they have those hypersonic missiles. Kim, I have not seen you in a dog's year. What's going on, lady? Hope you're doing well. We got Global in the house, too. Okay, Kate, I'm just stupid. I don't know what Alewife is. Your damn fucking knowing shit. I don't know shit. um, the UN Security Council is expected to meet later today at the request of Tehran, according to unnamed diplomats who spoke with Reuters. In a phone interview with CNN, Trumpy reaffirmed his support for Israel and called the overnight strikes a very successful attack. Iran should have listened to me when I said, I gave them, I don't know, if you know, but I gave them a 60-day warning, and today is day 61, Trump said. Fuck Trump. Trump said, he's been trying to do diplomacy up until this point. He's worthless. They should now come to the table to make a deal before it's too late. It will be too late for them. The people I was dealing with, they're dead, the hardliners. They didn't die of the flu. They didn't die of COVID, the president added. I don't know what the fuck that means. So, yeah. Guess what? Mossad spent 8 months preparing the surprise attack against Iran, according to a report. The Israeli military operation launched against Iran today, striking nuclear facilities, sites, missile sites, and senior leadership targets. They also killed some of those too. Some of the enrichment people, the scientists there. Senior leadership targets following 8 months of covert planning by Israeli intelligence and military agencies. That's according to Axios. Prime Minister fuckhead McGillicuddy announced that the goal of the operation is to eliminate Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities. This operation will continue as long as necessary until we complete the mission, he said. According to Axios, the opening wave of attacks targeted around 25 nuclear scientists, killing at least 2, and included the assassination of Iran's top military leaders, including the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, and the military chief of staff. Residential areas in Tehran were also bombed, causing extensive damage and civilian casualties, because it's not a Israeli bombing unless you're murdering civilians. Israeli warplanes carried out large-scale bombing raids across Iran, while Mossad operatives on the ground allegedly conducted sabotage missions at key missile and air defense facilities. Axios claims the strikes were prompted by a combination of factors: rising concerns over Iran's growing missile stockpile, intelligence indicating active nuclear weaponization research, and the imminent activation of a new underground enrichment facility that Israeli intelligence, deemed invulnerable to conventional airstrikes. This was arguably the biggest single blow to the Iranian regime since 1979, Axios wrote, citing Israeli officials who expect the operation to last days or even weeks. In the lead up to the operation, Israeli forces rehearsed the strike under the guise of standard military exercises and amid ongoing negotiations between Washington and Tehran over Iran's nuclear program. Behind the scenes, the Israeli government claimed it received tacit approval from the U.S., which the U.S. said, we didn't have anything to do with it. Yeah, you did. And despite public opposition from Trump, while Trump repeatedly warned that any Israeli action could blow up the nuclear negotiations, pun intended, I'm assuming, 2 Israeli officials told Axios that Washington had, in fact, given Tel Aviv private approval for the attack. We had a clear U.S. green light, one said. Trump, speaking after the strikes, confirmed he had prior knowledge of the attack, but claimed the U.S. played no active role. I gave Iran a chance after chance to make a deal, Trump claimed. They chose confrontation. They wanted confrontation. What are you talking about? There's already been great death and destruction, but there's still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal, come to an end, Trump threatened. He forgets that Iran has missiles too, and Iran has been holding back. They could easily wipe Tel Aviv off the map if they wanted to. The Houthis could wipe them off the map if they wanted to. During the negotiations, Iran has insisted on its right under international law to enrich uranium for peaceful energy and research purposes. The U.S. has insisted that Iran halt enrichment on its own soil, claiming the Islamic Republic seeks a nuclear weapon. Game.film. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. You have a great weekend, too. Happy Father's Day coming up Sunday, if you're into that sort of thing. The U.S. administration, including a Secretary of State, Aquaman, has officially distanced itself from the operation, calling it unilateral. However, questions remain about the extent of U.S. logistical and intelligence support. Yeah. Israel now braces for Iranian retaliation. Tehran has vowed a severe response, threatening to target both Israeli and U.S. military assets in the region in response to Israel's aggression. See, the U.S. is saying, "Ooh, damn, you want us," because they know Iran's going to blow the fuck out of some U.S. bases. The Zionist regime has committed a crime in our dear country today at dawn with its satanic bloodstained hands. It has revealed its malicious nature even more than before by targeting residential areas. That's what the Ayatollah Khamenei stated after the attack. The Zionist regime should anticipate a severe punishment by God's grace. The powerful arm of the Islamic Republic's armed forces won't let them go unpunished, he warned. There you go. So, and guess what? The little cucks around Israel, these pieces of shit, Arab states assist Israel in shooting down waves of Iranian drones. And it's the usual suspects, too. Big pussy. At least 100 drones have been fired towards Israel since the start of the Israeli attack against Iran early on June 13th, which is today, many of which happened. And they picked Friday the 13th, too. Isn't that nice? Many of which, I bet they're saying, well, I bet this was bad luck for the Iranians today. Motherfuckers. Many, at least 100 drones have been fired towards Israel since the start of the Israeli attack against Iran, many of which have been intercepted with the help of Arab states, including Jordan and Saudi Arabia. We can't open our mouths big enough for cock from Israel to fit in there. Iran has not yet confirmed that it launched any drone attacks against Israel. The Israeli army said early afternoon on Friday that it had control over the situation and that Israel continues to operate to intercept unmanned aerial vehicles launched from Iran towards the state of Israel. A source cited by Iran's Fars news agency said the Islamic Republic has not carried out any drone attacks so far, and the real revenge will take place in the near future and will only be announced through official channels, which is interesting. So that's the thing. It's just like, it's, you know, it's, what is it that, it's that meme with Stewie and from Family Guy and Stewie and Brian, and Stewie does something to Brian and Brian is making him wait. They did this before, I think. I think they had that for last year when they attacked Iran. And Stewie kept saying, come on, man, get back at me, get it back at me, come on, get back at me, come on. And then he ends up pushing him in front of a truck, which is kind of fun. Willard Scott, thank you, Peace Dove. He's 100? Wow, that's crazy. Unconfirmed reports on Telegram said the drones may have been launched from Iraq. Earlier today, video footage on social media showed sirens blaring in the Jordanian capital Amman due to drones en route to Israel. It's from Lord Bebo stuff here. The Jordanian Armed Forces announced on Friday that its Royal Air Force and air defense systems intercepted several drones that entered Jordanian's airspace earlier in the day. We are operating at a high level of readiness to protect the skies of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, the military said in a statement. They're not protecting the skies of the kingdom. They're protecting their cuck buddies. It's so fucking stupid. Israeli officials cited by Channel 12 and the Times of Israel said Israeli warplanes shot down drones over Saudi and Syrian airspace. You know, Syrian, they're going to get in there too. The ISIS down there. According to Al Akbar correspondent, Iranian drones flew towards Israel over the southern Lebanese border on Friday afternoon, prompting interception attempts by the Iron Dome system. Sirens reportedly sounded in Kiryat Shmona, and other northern Israeli settlements. The Iraqi government has issued a complaint at the UN Security Council over Israel's use of its airspace to shoot down drones. Iraq affirms that these practices represent a flagrant violation of the country's sovereignty and a transgression of the provisions of international law and the United Nations Charter, Iraqi state media said, adding that Iraq demands that the Security Council assume its legal and moral responsibilities and use its powers to deter the Zionist entity and prevent it from repeating such violations, which is never going to happen. I know, right? I was thinking Vegemite too. I come from the land down under. Damn you, CJ. Now I got this song stuck in my head. Germany's foreign minister Johann Watepool condemned what it said was an indiscriminate Iranian drone attack. No casualties have been reported from the drone attack as of yet. Meanwhile, Tel Aviv continues to escalate its airstrikes across Iran, bombing the capital and several provinces. At least 78 people have been killed, over 300 wounded in Tehran alone, according to FARS. Let's see. Israeli warplanes bomb Imam Ali missile base in Karamabad. So this is some of the shit that they were doing. You can't really see it very well. The fog of war, as it were. We already showed you that. So, yeah. So here we go. Here we go again. We're at it again, Iran and Israel. And I'm pretty sure that those hypersonic missiles at some point are gonna, and they're their targets have been military targets. Iran, every time they attack Iran, they don't attack the civilian areas. That's they don't want to steal the playbook from Israel on that one. But this time, I don't know. I said to the man, do you speak my language? And he just smiled and gave me a Hashemite sandwich. Or is that Hashemite? Hashemite National Park. Yeah, I know, Chuck. We were on the same page there. And in ordinary fuckery, Israeli forces kill 103 Palestinians in Gaza, including 21 aid seekers, because it was a day of the week. Gaza's health ministry said yesterday that Israeli forces killed 103 Palestinians and wounded 427 over the previous 24-hour period, as Israeli troops continued to shoot people seeking aid, and airstrikes and artillery pounded the strip. So they're not just bombing Iran. They're like, oh, don't worry. We're not going to neglect you guys. We're going to still bomb you. Details about Israeli strikes, photos, and videos were not as widely available as usual on Thursday, as Palestinian authorities reported a total internet blackout, and we'll get to that in a second, due to an Israeli attack on the last remaining fiber optic cable connecting Gaza. The UN said that the blackout had hampered its aid operations inside the besieged enclave. Lifelines to emergency services, humanitarian coordination, and critical information for civilians have all been cut. There's a full internet blackout, and mobile networks are barely functioning, said Deputy UN spokesman Farhan Haq. The health ministry said that 21 Palestinians were killed while seeking aid on Thursday morning, and another 294 were injured. Massacres of Palestinians seeking aid at distribution sites operated by the U.S. and Israeli-backed GHF have become a daily occurrence, because we know that was going to happen. When they kicked out all the other aid agencies, said, no, we'll take care of the aid. We got this. We're not going to let Hamas in. And then they end up shooting everybody. Zateo has published an account of an American contractor working at one of the sites in Gaza who harshly criticized the operation, saying it was directly leading to more pain, suffering, and death for the Palestinians in Gaza. We got that coming up later, too. The contractor said that Israeli tanks fire all day long near these aid sites. Snipers fire from what used to be a hospital. Bombs and bullets fly all day long in one direction towards Palestinians. Just so you know, this is probably going to be a long-ass show today because we got a lot of stuff today. Most of the aid massacres typically happen early in the morning as desperate Palestinians try to reach the aid sites early before supplies run out. We know the Israeli military has been enforcing curfews in some parts of Gaza, the contractor said. I would not be surprised if the aid was delivered at night deliberately, given it would then draw people out, at which point they could be fired on as combatants, even though they weren't. It's very clear that the Israeli military will take any opportunity available to fire, the contractor added. GHF claimed that on Wednesday evening, a bus carrying dozens of its Palestinian staff members was attacked by Hamas and that 8 people were killed. Hamas hasn't commented on the allegations, but claimed its police force killed 12 members of the Israeli-backed Abu Shabab gang. That's the one that knocked out my internet. Though it's unclear if the two incidents were related. A few days ago, it was a thing. The health ministry said that since the GHF began operating in Gaza at the end of May, at least 245 Palestinians have been killed while seeking aid, and 2,152 have been injured. Dave DeCamp, ladies and gentlemen, over at antiwar.com. So, like I said, we'll have more on that contractor. It's kind of a lengthy story. Like I said, this is going to be a long show today, so pack a lunch. It's going to be one of those days. Because we want to get this information out to you. Meanwhile, as we said, the internet phone services completely cut off in Gaza after Israeli strikes. So internet and phone services collapsed across the Gaza Strip yesterday following Israeli strikes on telecommunications infrastructure. The Palestinian Telecommunications Regulatory Authority said, the PTRA. In a statement, the authority said the digital isolation of Gaza has deepened due to Israel's systematic targeting of telecom infrastructure, despite repeated attempts to repair damaged and alternative routes over a prolonged period. It said that the southern and central areas of the territory had now joined Gaza City and the northern region in a total communications blackout for a second consecutive day. The authority accused Israel of deliberately targeting key telecom networks and main fiber optic routes, warning that the telecom blackout threatens to disconnect Gaza from the outside world completely and cut off access to critical services such as emergency aid, healthcare, media coverage, and education, to which Israel replied, "Well, that was the plan." The Israeli army, rejecting international calls for a ceasefire, has pursued a brutal offensive against Gaza since October 2023, killing more than 55,000 people, most of them women and children. And then you know the rest here about the ICC and the genocide case at the ICJ. So total blackout in Gaza. One of the reasons that's one way that you can shut down video of babies getting shot in the head. That's one way you can do it. But you know, so people will always find ways to communicate. That's how you cut off the communication. There's always some other forms of communication that they can use. So it's bad enough that they bomb Palestine, right? And now they're going to take away their banking privileges, it seems. As a sanctioned far-right Israeli minister threatens retaliation. This guy, this piece of shit. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich lashed out at 5 Western governments a day after they sanctioned him and another far-right minister for incitement against Palestinians and threatened retaliation if the West Bank, in the West Bank and against the states themselves. The UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Norway imposed sanctions on Tuesday on Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, National Security Minister, for inciting extremist violence and serious abuses of Palestinian human rights, primarily in the West Bank. Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, also known as Dumb and Dumber, are powerful members of the ruling coalition of Shithead McGee and have a big influence on West Bank policy, including a vast expansion of settlement construction in the territory and on the conduct of the continuing war in Gaza. Smotrich immediately ordered the cancellation of a crucial waiver that lets Israeli banks provide services to their Palestinian counterparts, in effect cutting Palestinian lenders off from the Israeli financial system. It remains unclear if the contentious move will require a cabinet vote by the Israeli government, whereas the United States will just say, nah, it's fine, go ahead, do it. The Palestinian Monetary Authority said in a statement on Thursday that it was closely tracking developments, warning that the move could disrupt the supply of essential goods such as food, electricity, and fuel to areas of the West Bank administered by the Palestinian Authority. The PMA, however, attempted to calm public jitters by affirming that there was no immediate risk of a banking collapse and that deposits were secure. Didn't they say that in 1929? In America. In a speech to the Israeli parliament, or Knesset, on Wednesday, Smotrich threatened to go even further, telling lawmakers that he was working with Netanyahu and other senior government officials to, quote, formulate a whole package of steps against these countries that impose the sanctions, also against the Palestinian Authority, and also in the West Bank settlements. He also dismissed the impact on him personally of the sanctions, the first such step ever taken by Western governments against Israeli ministers, which impose asset freezes and travel bans on the two ministers across the 5 countries. Smotrich, an ultranationalist, declared that it was due to Muslim immigration that the sanctions were instituted in the first place. Smotrich said, these sanctions don't interest me, and I have nothing to find in these anti-Semitic countries, and I don't intend to enter them. By the way, we have to be careful. It's not the countries, but left-wing governments in these countries that were simply Islamicized because of the Muslim immigration there. I know that sounds a little like Zelensky, and I don't really know what an Israeli accent sounds like. So that'll probably change up as the days pass. The sanctions were swiftly condemned on Tuesday by the Trump administration, with Secretary of State Aquaman calling for their reversal. Sanctions do not... I'm sorry, that was him underwater. These sanctions do not advance U.S.-led efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza, bring all hostages home, and end the war, he said. One person familiar with the thinking of Western governments said the countries imposing the sanctions had anticipated a negative reaction from the Trump administration, but the pressure to send a message outweighed the possible consequences, the person said. The governments felt they had to do something to demonstrate that Smotrich and Ben-Gvir's words and actions with the West Bank were not acceptable. That's right. It's the principle of the thing, as a friend of mine once said recently. Meanwhile, the UN General Assembly overwhelmingly votes in favor of immediate Gaza ceasefire. Yesterday, the UN the UN General Assembly voted overwhelmingly in favor of a resolution that called for an immediate, unconditional ceasefire in Gaza and an end to the Israeli blockade on the besieged Palestinian territory. The resolution, drafted by Spain, also condemns the, quote, use of starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, quote, and calls for Hamas to release the remaining Israeli captives. The resolution passed with a vote of 149 to 12 and 19 abstentions. The vote came about a week after the U.S. used its veto power on the UN Security Council to block a Gaza ceasefire resolution. So here you have the thing here. I don't know if you can see this, but basically, who voted against this was the abstentions were Benin, Bolivia, Central Africa, Comoros. That's not a country. Fuck off. Equatorial someplace. Eswatini. It sounds like I'm doing some sort of incantation to try to raise the dead. Haiti, Madagascar, Samoa, Sao Tome, whatever that is, Venezuela, and Zambia. Venezuela not voting. Interesting. And the people who voted against it, you know who, Argentina, there you go, Fiji. The fuck, Fiji? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe those were the abstentions. Okay, never mind. No, all right. My bad. So Albania, Cameroon, Czechia Democratic Republic. I'm assuming that's Democratic Republic of someplace. Dominica, Ecuador, Ethiopia. The ones I named were, let's see. I don't know why. I guess I don't know why they didn't put anything for the Haiti stuff. Georgia, not to be confused with the state. India, Kiribati, Malawi, Marshall Islands, Panama, North Macedonia. I think that's what that is. Romania, Slovakia, South Sudan, Timor-Leste, Togo. Those are the ones who abstained. The ones who voted against it were Argentina, Fiji, Hungary, Israel. I'm shocked by that one. Micronesia, Nauru. Isn't that like a Star Trek planet? What the fuck is that? Palau, Papua New Guinea. Mama New Guinea definitely voted for it, but Papua New Guinea did not. Paraguay, Tonga, Tuvalu, and of course, the shitty United States. And everybody else said, yay, Christmas. Whew. Sorry about that. Go Start. What's up? Going? Good to see you. Today's not a good start to the day. the old mouth don't work very well. Ahead of the UN General Assembly vote, the U.S. and Israel argued against the resolution. Israel's UN ambassador, Danny Danon, said the line about Israel using starvation as a weapon of war was a blood libel. We have cameras, dude. We saw it. Acting U.S. Ambassador Dorothy Shea said the resolution was one-sided because it didn't condemn Hamas. And said it sends an unacceptable message to Hamas and other Iran-backed terrorist proxies. And that message is you will be rewarded for taking hostages, diverting aid, and launching attacks from civilian areas. Well, apparently you can be rewarded by the United States for capping kids in the head. Shea provided the no vote at the UN Security Council last week to veto the Gaza ceasefire resolution. The Biden administration vetoed several Gaza-related resolutions at the Security Council, but Wednesday's vote marked the first time the new Trump administration used its veto power to block a Gaza ceasefire resolution on behalf of Israel. Shea claimed that the resolutions would impede U.S. diplomatic efforts, but there's no sign that negotiations are making any progress towards a ceasefire. In the meantime, the U.S. continues to support Israel's genocidal war and what have become daily massacres of Palestinians seeking aid. So I don't know what that means to you, but it just seems like the narrative is starting to turn on Israel worldwide, which I never thought would happen in my lifetime, to be honest with you. They had that propaganda on lockdown. You feel me, B? What we got here? So we told you, I think we told you on Tuesday, maybe, about the Knesset might be dissolved. Well, they avoided that. Israel's coalition survives vote to dissolve parliament over army draft tensions. Israel's governing coalition narrowly survived a no-confidence vote yesterday following a last-minute effort to convince ultra-Orthodox parties to withdraw their support for a motion to dissolve parliament. Tensions had been running high for days, with Shas and United Torah Judaism, the UTJ, threatening to back the move to topple the government and trigger easy elections. What the fuck's going on? The political crisis was sparked by the government's failure to pass legislation exempting ultra-Orthodox Jews from military service, a long-standing demand of both Shas and UTJ. Likud MP Yuli Edelstein, chair of the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, said that compromise with the religious parties was reached late on Wednesday. I am pleased to announce that after long deliberations, we have reached agreements on the principles on which the draft law will be based. Oy vey! This is historic news, and we are on the way to a real conviction in Israeli society and the establishment of the security of the state of Israel. Anytime I go to an Israeli accent, I always go to Mel Brooks, but it gets a little more New Yorkish in there. According to the temporary arrangement, thousands of ultra-Orthodox are expected to enlist in the army in the coming years. Those who do not study in yeshivas, Jewish religious schools, and will not enlist will face sanctions such as revocation of car licenses, cancellation of subsidies for academic studies, and a ban on leaving the country. So they're not going to let you leave. That's crazy. Despite the agreement, two representatives of the Hasidic wing of the UTJ voted in favor of dissolving parliament. The agreement was criticized by opposition leaders. Tonight, the Israeli government once again chose evasion instead of Zionism. Avigdor Lieberman, a leader of Israel Beitianu Party, said, I know I butchered that. Once again, it puts politics above national and security interests. It abandons those who serve and enlist for the sake of those who evade. The protest of ultra-Orthodox men being conscripted into the Israeli army has placed sustained pressure on the leadership of the ultra-Orthodox parties, according to Penina Pfuffer. That's a weird name. Director General of the Ultra-Orthodox Public Organization, a civil society group. I can't talk today. A silly society group. A civil society group working within Haredi communities. Ari Deri, the leader of Shas, does not want to bring down the government, but the party's leading Torah scholars are more open to the idea. Pfuffer told Middle East Eye ahead of Thursday night's vote. She was referring to internal tensions within Shas, a party rooted in the Mizrahi Jewish community, which traces its origins to the Middle East and North Africa. Shas is under the most pressure because they know their communities face the greatest threat of being drafted, Pfuffer added, linking the issue to long-standing discrimination against Mizrahi Jews in Israel. UTJ, the other major ultra-Orthodox party, which compromises both Lithuanian and Hasidic factions, has been forced to align with Shah's demands, according to Pfuffer. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that name too, but Pfuffer just sounds good. Another key factor, she said, is the worsening economic situation within ultra-Orthodox society, driven by fears of financial sanctions being imposed on draft evaders. The legitimacy of ultra-Orthodox parties depends on their ability to protect the yeshiva world. No party can afford to be seen as agreeing to military conscription, Pfuffer told Middle East Eye. Since the outbreak of Israel's war on Gaza, a heated public debate has erupted over the potential conscription of ultra-Orthodox men who have traditionally been exempt for military service. Willie Bragg in the house. What's up, man? Greetings. You are semi-sleeping? So am I. I'm listening too. Thanks, Willie. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well, man. Let's see. Last year, Israel's High Court ruled that the government must begin drafting ultra-Orthodox youth, challenging long-standing arrangements. The ruling comes as the military faces a shortage of manpower, with officials saying they need an additional 10,000 soldiers. Earlier this week, the Army's Human Resources Directorate announced plans to issue 54,000 conscription orders to ultra-Orthodox men, in line with instructions from Attorney General Gali Baharov Miara. I said that while I was scratching my nose. Despite the mass issuance of draft notices, the military has so far succeeded in attracting only a small number of Haredi recruits, and continues to struggle with enforcing penalties against draft evaders. Burn your draft cards, boys. According to Pfuffer, ultra-Orthodox Jews have long been vocal in their objection to conscription, but their leadership suffers from lack of long-term planning. Anyone living in Israel could have guessed that the issue of conscription would explode. Yeah, so another problem, and another internal problem for Israel there, as they have to deal with their Haredi factions there that ain't gonna go. Then they don't want to do it. They don't want any part of this bullshit. And good for them. They may hate the Palestinians, but at least they don't want to kill them themselves, I guess. We talked about the Freedom Flotilla. They captured the folks there. We're giving you a little update now as Israel deports 6 from Gaza aid boat Madeleine, 2 more still in custody. Palestinian rights group Adallah has confirmed Israel's deportation of 6 more activists detained on board the Madlene aid ship as they sought to draw international attention to Israel's illegal blockade of Gaza. The rights group, which legally represented the 12 passengers who were seized by Israeli forces in the eastern Mediterranean early this week, said on Thursday that the 6 detainees, 2 French citizens, including member of the European Parliament, Rima Hassan, and nationals of Brazil, Germany, the Netherlands, and Turkey, had departed Israel. Another 2 French nationals remain in Israeli custody awaiting deportation today, Adallah told the news agency AFP. While in custody, volunteers were subjected to mistreatment, punitive measures, and aggressive treatment, and 2 volunteers were held for some period of time in solitary confinement, said Adallah. Hassan, a French-Palestinian member of the European Parliament, had previously been barred from entering Israel and the Palestinian territory due to her support for boycotts of the country in light of Israel's occupation and genocide in Palestinian land. Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which had dismissed the aid boat as a selfie yacht, posted a photo of Hassan on what appeared to be an aeroplane. An aeroplane? Get me a ticket for an aeroplane, confirming the deportation of 6 passengers. 4 of the ship's passengers, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg and Al Jazeera Mubashir reporter Omar Fayyad, were deported on Tuesday. On Thursday, Hassan's X account featured a post, that's Twitter to you and me, calling on supporters to assemble in Place de la République in Paris, where protests calling for the release of all of the passengers still in Israeli detention and a lifting of the Gaza blockade had been held earlier in the week. German citizen Yasmin Akar was also among Thursday's deportees. Video circulating online showed her saying that she had arrived in Germany. I just arrived in Germany. I'm safe. But one thing is very clear. The siege of Gaza is still going on. The illegal blockade is still going on. People are still starving. The only reason I did this as a German citizen is because my country, the very ground that I'm standing on, is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or not supposed to do. They're sending more weapons. We need to stop this. We need to hold our politicians accountable for the genocide, for the starvation, for the killing of children, thousands of men and women. We will not stop. All 12 people on board the Madlene have been banned from Israel for 100 years. Okay. So, yeah. So, there's a few more, I guess the 2 from France that are still there. But there's more, in a similar vein to the Freedom Flotilla, and we'll talk about that later, in the show, if not, sooner. Meanwhile, UK confirms Israeli soldiers are training on British soil. What? All our people across the pond, like, aren't they supposed to be, arresting these people? On Thursday, UK Armed Forces Minister Luke Pollard confirmed that Israeli soldiers are receiving military training in Britain through courses delivered by the UK Armed Forces. The disclosure was made in response to a question raised in Parliament, with Pollard describing the activity as part of routine defense cooperation and involving a limited number of Israeli army personnel. It's only a few people. It's not that many people. Come on, it's only a few Zion Nazis. The disclosure was made in response to a question raised in Parliament, with Pollard describing the activity as part of routine to think. Okay, limited number of... The revelation comes as British arms companies continue to export equipment to Israeli firms, despite government claims of a partial suspension on items that could be used in Gaza. The UK's military and political ties with Israel have also drawn renewed attention amid international legal proceedings and sanctions targeting Israeli officials. An investigation by Declassified UK. Check out Declassified UK. They do really good independent reporting there. And The Ditch, I never heard of that, revealed that Durham-based Permoid Industries sent over 1,000 ammunition containers to Israeli weapons manufacturer Elbit Systems between October 2023 and April of this year, including 360 units in April alone. The shipments totaled over 135 tons and were delivered to Elbit Systems facilities in Ramat Hasharon and Haifa. In April, 360 containers were sent as Israel resumed its military campaign on Gaza, prompting renewed scrutiny of the UK's role in supplying equipment used by the Israeli army. UK trade restrictions have exempted key weapons components such as drone engines and mountings, allowing British companies to continue supplying Israel. The hard fact remains that British firms are still provisioning a genocide, said former British soldier Joe Glinton, now with the campaign group Forces Watch. Political support for Israel extends beyond materials alone. In November last year, the UK Foreign Office granted Israeli Army Chief Herzi Halevi special mission status, shielding him from arrest during an official visit to London. The visit came just 3 days after the ICC issued arrest warrants for Bibi and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and included meetings between Halevi and senior UK officials, with Attorney General Richard Hermer being among them. In April of that same year, then Foreign Secretary David Cameron threatened to defund and withdraw from the ICC if arrest warrants were issued against Israeli officials. According to Middle East Eye, Cameron told ICC prosecutor Karim Khan that targeting Israeli leaders would be like dropping a hydrogen bomb, and accused him of losing the plot. During the call, Cameron dismissed comparisons between Ukraine and Gaza, rejected the ICC's investigation of Israeli soldiers, and warned that Khan was drawing a moral equivalence between Hamas and the Israeli army. Yeah, so UK is not okay. Sorry. And it's not just the UK. It's the whole European Union. Right, let me have a little sippy poo first. How's everybody doing? Let's take a little break here. Let my lips heal so I can talk again. Everybody doing good? Friday the 13th. Be safe out there, folks. European Defense Fund, millions benefiting Israeli state-owned drone manufacturer. How about that? What is this from? This is from Investigate Europe. This is like a new thing. New to me. A European subsidiary of Israel Aerospace Industries is currently involved in 15 EU defense projects, including a multi-million euro drone development program co-funded by European governments. An Israeli state defense company directly involved in the Gaza conflict is benefiting from millions in EU defense funding, thanks to an exemption allowing foreign-owned entities to participate in the bloc's military projects, Investigate Europe and Reporters United can reveal. The European Defense Fund, the EDF, is designed to enhance the continent's military capabilities by financing domestic innovation, yet at least 15 million euros has been awarded to Greece's Intracom Defense since it was acquired in May of 2023 by Israel's largest state-owned aerospace and defense company. Israel Aerospace Industries, IAI, which is controlled by the government of Israel, acquired the firm to capitalize on an ever-increasing demand for air defense systems in Europe, according to IAI's press announcements at the time. Damn, you get one of those hangers, man. Pardon me. Mm-hmm. So good. I hate it right in the middle of the show, then the throat just goes. Intracom Defense is currently involved in 15 EDF projects. The investigation found 7 of them, including one co-funded directly by European governments, were awarded after its sale to IAI and the start of the conflict in Gaza back in 2023, where IAI surveillance drones have been used in Israeli military operations in the territory. Okay. Yeah. I think every day is Friday the 13th, Kate, to be honest. While Intracom Defense is registered and based in Greece and has a Greek presence on its board, its financial records for 2024 show that 94.5% of shares are owned by IAI, and according to the Israeli firm's latest records, it holds 100% of voting rights in Intracom Defense. Yeah, so it's about as Greek as I am. The EDF outwardly promotes domestic innovation, but a clause in Article 9 of the regulation states companies need only to be based in Europe to be eligible, as long as they provide guarantees to the government where they are registered. These include ensuring that sensitive information is not shared with the mother company. This allows entities like Intracom Defense, though owned by an Israeli state-owned company, to access European defense funds. So it just sounds like it's just compartmentalized, more or less. And this is them at Ziocom. I think they saw it's kind of like Comic-Con, only it's for Zionists. Sorry. Intracom Defense failed to answer questions sent by Investigate Europe and Reporters United regarding the EDF guarantees and its ownership by IAI. A spokesperson said the company participates in EU projects in full compliance with national and international laws, adding it is a Greek company registered and operating in Greece and has been one of the leading Greek companies in the defense and security sector in Europe for more than 20 years. IAI did not respond to requests for comment by the time of publication. Belgian MEP Mark Botenga said the arrangement reflects a, quote, structural security issue, quote, with the EDF that permits non-EU third-party involvement. If you were to accept the logic of the EDF as a European program, for it to be true to its name, entities controlled by a third country or by a non-associated third country entity should be excluded from funding. This means cutting out all loopholes currently present in amongst others Article 9 of the regulation, said Botenga, a member of European Parliament from the left group who sits on the Committee on Security and Defense. Despite IAI being part of Israel's military-industrial complex, its subsidiary has secured a leading role in a multi-million euro EDF project launched in December last year to develop drone technologies for weapon integration and other capabilities for European use. Intracom Defense has been designated the lead coordinator for the 59 million euro four-year drone program, Actus, which also involves French defense company Safran. I'm just mad about Safran. Safran's mad about me. And 21 European entities. The commission has co-funded Actus with 42 million euros. The origin of the remaining 17 million euros has not been made public, but 7 European defense ministries are known as co-funders: France, Belgium, Greece, Norway, Sweden, Cyprus, and Finland. A spokesperson for the European Commission said that based on the guarantees provided by Greece, they considered Intracom Defense as eligible for participating in EDF projects, adding that the guarantees could not be made public due to their sensitive nature. Yes. They added that projects were selected only after thorough technical and legal evaluations conducted independently of political developments and based strictly on project eligibility. All EDF projects were evaluated on ethical grounds, the spokesperson said, adding that the EDF does not fund projects in breach of international law. The Greek Ministry of Defense said Intracom Defense and IAI have signed a special security agreement prohibiting the transfer between the two parties of classified information, technology, materials, and other sensitive information. A ministry spokesperson added that Intracom Defense must provide guarantees and an ownership control declaration when participating in an EDF project, but provided no further details by the time of publication. The revelations that an enterprise in the orbit of the Israeli military is building Europe's future defense systems have stoked security and ethical concerns among campaigners and analysts, and come amid heightened criticism in the EU of Israel's actions in Gaza. European governments have sharpened their stance on Israel in recent days, with several of those funding the IAI-linked project also reportedly among those calling for a review of the EU-Israel Association Agreement, a pact defining trade and diplomatic relations. Human rights advocates highlighted the hypocrisy of governments for effectively funding an Israeli arms company linked to the conflict in Gaza, where more than 50,000 people, more than 55,000 people have been killed since October 2023. On the one hand, we have a state, France, that denounces violations of international law, and on the other, it's prepared to collaborate with a company that is owned by the Israeli state. Aymeric Eloun, an arms trade campaigner at Amnesty International France, said in a response to the findings. Analysis of EU tender databases reveals Intracom Defense has received at least 15 million euros to participate in EDF projects since being purchased by IAI. The Triton and Marta projects, for example, both starting in December last year, will develop AI-driven cybersecurity technology and tank systems for combat, respectively. The latter involves Leonardo, the defense giant part owned by the Italian government. The Italian company did not respond for requests for comment. So, yep. So Greece said, hey, we're Greek, it's Greek to me. And then it's all controlled. They're just puppets of Israel. Steve Wolfbrand, live in the house. Happy Friday the 13th to you. Cha-cha-cha, ka-ka-ka to all my friends. That's not me stuttering and pooping, by the way. That's the despite all the fuckery in Iran with the bombing and stuff, the sixth round of the U.S.-Iran nuclear talks are scheduled to be held Sunday in Oman. Jordan, where they shot down their... that's going to be interesting, where the Iranians, they're in Jordan, they're like, hey, didn't you guys shoot down our shit, motherfucker? Oman said Thursday it will host a sixth round of nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran over the weekend amid escalating tensions between the longtime foes. I'm pleased to confirm the sixth round of Iran-U.S. talks will be held in Muscat this Sunday, Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi said in a post on them tweeters. Tehran and Washington have held 5 rounds of talks since April to thrash out a new nuclear deal to replace the 2015 accord that Trump abandoned during his first term in 2018. Now, this story dropped before Israel did the boom, 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 boom with them. So I don't know if this is going to go through or not, but this is just tentative information right now. The announcement by Oman came just hours after Trumpy said U.S. personnel were being moved from the potentially dangerous Middle East. Trump, it's only dangerous when you're there, if you took the Israelis and the United States out of the Middle East, I bet you wouldn't have any problems. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Trump also reiterated that he would not allow Iran to have an atomic bomb amid mounting speculation that Israel could strike Iranian nuclear facilities, which they did. Iran threatened Wednesday to target U.S. military bases in the region if conflict breaks out. And conflict has broken out, and Iran has said that they would target U.S. military bases over there. So, oopsie sauce. And what's his name's over there too? Huckabee. Huckabee, he's the ambassador to Israel, right? So Huckabee's probably in his bunker going, I wish I was back in Arkansas. I only have to worry about, well, never mind. I'm from Mississippi. We make a lot of bestiality jokes against our neighbors, Arkansas and Alabama. I know. We have no place, but still, it is what it is. Senator was like, Trump had until recently expressed optimism about the talks, but said in an interview published Wednesday that he was less confident about reaching a deal. He's probably even lesser confident now. Since returning in office in January, Trump has revived his maximum pressure campaign on Tehran, backing nuclear diplomacy, but warning of military action if it fails. The U.S. president said he has pressed Israeli Prime Minister shithead, fuckface, your mom and them, to hold off striking Iran's nuclear facilities to give the talks a chance, but has But that didn't happen. Israeli media report on Thursday, Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer and Mossad intelligence agency head David Barnea will travel to meet Witkoff ahead of the talks. So this, I don't know, I guess the talks are still on. I haven't seen anything about them being canceled, but it's going to be awkward. Especially with Jordan there. It's like, you motherfuckers shoot down our shit. You motherfucker. Hang on a second. Let me do something here real quick. A little Batman tilt going on there. So, like I said, this is all tentative too. Iran to vote to launch new enrichment site in response to the IAEA board vote. Again, from antiwar.com. Iranian officials have slammed a resolution passed by the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency, Board of Governors, and have vowed that Tehran will now establish a new uranium enrichment site in response. So they said, we're tired of you fucking with us. We're just going to do it. The resolution introduced by the U.S., France, the U.K., and Germany declared that Iran was no longer complying with the safeguards agreement under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. The accusation is mainly based on traces of uranium that the IAEA found at 3 undeclared sites in Iran in 2019. Kind of like the tubes that they found in Iraq. You remember those? The tubes? Stephanie Falcon class today. What's up, Stephanie? Happy Friday to you. Yeah, you remember that from the Iraq War? They said, and what's his face? Fuckhead Colin Powell. He was holding up the yellow cake, the mushroom cloud, smoking gun, all that bullshit. Yeah, that's what this smells like. The IAEA said in a recent report that Iran hasn't provided satisfactory answers for uranium traces. Iran said in response that it found evidence suggesting sabotage was responsible for the uranium traces. Because I can't stand it. I know you planned it. I'm going to set it straight, this Watergate. I'm telling all y'all, it's sabotage. Israeli intelligence has a history of penetrating Iran's nuclear program and carrying out attacks and assassinations of nuclear scientists. Iranian media is claiming that Tehran has obtained secret documents that reveal IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi had cooperated closely with Israel and that Iranian nuclear scientists were killed after the IAEA disclosed their names. What? The IAEA stands for its ass and eats ass, regardless of how the uranium traces ended up at the undeclared site. Kind of like how crack rock ends up in the backseat of your car. The issue is not relevant to the threat of nuclear proliferation today. Grossi has said that the agency believes that the traces may have been left over from undeclared Iranian nuclear activity in the early 2000s. Yeah, because that shit don't just go away. It's not like you sweep it up, throw it in the garbage can. You got to do shit with it. The other main issue the resolution raised was the enrichment of uranium at the 60% level. Iran is the only state in the world without nuclear weapons that is producing and accumulating uranium enriched to 60%, the resolution states. One moment, please. Oh, no, what's up? Everything's getting all gummed up. In 2021, Iran began enriching some uranium at 60%, which is below the 90% needed for weapons grade, in response to an Israeli sabotage attack on its Natanz nuclear facility. Tehran has made clear it's willing to reduce its enrichment levels as part of a deal for sanctions relief from the U.S., which the U.S. is not involving in this sometime. Okay. Bella, I'm trying to decipher what you're saying there. Sorry. Tehran has also made it clear that there will be consequences for further sanctions, U.S. or Israeli military action, and other forms of pressure in the form of advancements in the nuclear program. The resolution sets the stage for the snapback mechanism to be triggered, potentially leading to the imposition of UN sanctions on Iran. Because, yeah, why not? In a joint statement, the Iranian Foreign Minister and Atomic Energy Association of Iran, that's the AEOI, said the resolution was politically motivated and that it was based on allegations dating back more than 25 years. It said Tehran would take action in response, which includes establishing a new enrichment facility and upgrading centrifuges at an existing one. Accordingly, the president of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran has issued necessary directives for launching a new enrichment facility in a secure location and replacing first-generation centrifuges at the Martyr Ali Mohammadi Fordo Enrichment Center with advanced sixth-generation machines, the statement said. The state also called out the Western countries for their lack of concern for Israel's secret nuclear weapons program, which is not under any inspection regime, except their own. The actions by the four countries come while the same countries remain silent on the Zionist regime's exclusion from the NPT and its development of weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons. Moreover, they have taken no action against the regime's threats to attack the peaceful nuclear facilities of NPT member states, it said. The IAEA resolution comes amid reports that the U.S. is expecting Israel to attack Iran, which they did, which could lead to a full-blown war between Washington and Tehran. Amid the tensions, U.S. and Iranian negotiators are still expected to meet this weekend. Maybe. President Trump has been demanding that Iran end its enrichment program, as we said, a condition that's a non-starter for Tehran, has been threatening to bomb Iran nuclear facilities. Iran already did that today if a deal isn't reached. The consensus of U.S. intelligence agencies is that there is no evidence Iran is trying to build a nuclear weapon. So their own U.S. intelligence agencies are saying they're not trying to do this shit. So it is. That's why it's politically motivated, and they're absolutely right. So very, very frustrating, you know. The Pentagon, meanwhile, quietly boosts presence in Syria despite withdrawal plans. They ain't going nowhere. It's the U.S. They're the ultimate squatters. The U.S.-led international coalition has deployed over 100 trucks of military and logistical reinforcements to its bases in northeastern Syria over the past 2 days, according to a report by Shafak on June 12th. That was yesterday. The move comes despite recent U.S. announcements and a troop drawdowns and base closures in the country. The convoy, we got a great big convoy across the Syria. Come on, join our convoy. C.W. McCall fans anywhere? The convoy, which crossed from Iraq through the Al-Walid border crossing, was loaded with military vehicles, fuel, food, water, and sealed containers believed to contain weapons and ammunition. The supplies were delivered to coalition bases in Krab al-Jir, Kasrak, and al-Shaddadi. Boom, ba-da-dum, bum, al-Shaddadi, boom, da-da-dum, in Syria's Hasaka province. A source from the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF, told the Shafak news outlet that, quote, weekly deliveries of military and logistical equipment are ongoing, quote, despite Washington's claims of scaling down operations. The source confirmed that U.S. forces remain stationed at their posts in Kurdish-controlled territories, actively cooperating with the SDF to contain ISIS activities. The coalition, in coordination with the SDF, continues to monitor ISIS cells to prevent the group from exploiting the current situation to reorganize or carry out attacks in Syria, the source stated. Meanwhile, the United States is definitely going to exploit the situation. Yeah, with what's the Chris Christopherson was in Choosy, you have a wrench. Choosy, look, there you are, Choosy. You've got to look, you're blue in the chat. I don't know what you're smoking, but you probably should smoke something else because it's fucking with your head. Yeah, C.W. McCall and Allie, I think, what was it? Allie McGraw was in that too. Yeah, there you go. A little convoy reference for you. You weren't expecting that on Friday the 13th. On Wednesday, the SDF announced a joint operation with coalition forces in Al Mansoura, west of Raqqa, that resulted in the arrest of 2 prominent ISIS operatives. Oh boy, here we go. Abdul Sattar Abdul Fattah al-Muhammad, known as Abu Amira, thank God they shortened that, and his brother, Muhammad Abdul Fattah al-Muhammad, also known as Abu al-Bara, were captured at a workshop used for manufacturing car bombs and explosive silencers. These individuals were directly involved in producing improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, the SDF said in a statement. The Islamic State, ISIS efforts to destabilize the region will be met with firm resistance to safeguard civilians and public institutions. You better not piss off the CIA. That's their boys, ISIS there. You acknowledge I'm not hitting here because okay, all right. That you're not hidden here. You're hidden from all the actual important chat. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, you can go enjoy those important chats if you want to. We'll stay here with our unimportant chat. The redeployment of coalition assets comes amid renewed warnings from regional and Western intelligence sources that ISIS is attempting a resurgence in both Syria and Iraq. On Thursday, a Reuters report citing over 20 officials and diplomats claimed that the group is reactivating fighters, distributing weapons, identifying targets, and ramping up recruitment efforts across both countries. Despite publicly opposing ISIS, the U.S. and its regional allies, including Turkey, led by President Erdogan, and the government of the Kurdistan region of Iraq, the KRI, your top 40, your Hot 100, out of St. Louis, Missouri, led by Masoud Barzani, have long secretly supported the organization. Weapons purchased by the U.S. military in Eastern Europe assisted ISIS in its capture and occupation of Mosul, Iraq's second largest city, in 2014. Kurdish security forces from Masoud Barzani's Kurdistan Democratic Party, the KDP, played a key role in assisting ISIS in carrying out the genocide of Yazidis in the Sinjar region of Iraq 2 months after Mosul fell. So they're not going anywhere. They're pretending. They just tending. Tuesday, I ain't reading that fucking novel. I never read your novels, so I don't hide you from the chat, but I'm not reading those fucking novels. Okay, so this was our top story until Iran decided to get fucked up by Israel. This happened in India. Over 290 killed as UK-bound Air India plane crashes into residential building. Ugh. All these airplanes. It's just like the 70s and 80s now. You remember if you're old enough to remember, there was just like some sort of plane crash every week. And now onto the Monkeys catalog. An Air India flight bound for London crashed into a medical college hostel just minutes after takeoff from Ahmedabad on yesterday, killing at least 290 people. Of the 242 people on board, all but one were killed, officials said. The total death toll includes victims on the ground, bringing the number of confirmed fatalities to at least 290, according to the police there. The plane went down in a residential area minutes after taking off from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Airport, not going to work here anymore, in Gujarat. Videos of the crash circulating on social media show plumes of dark smoke rising into the sky. The authorities have not yet confirmed the cause of the crash. There's been a few planes that have just crashed right after takeoff, I think. As rescue operations continue, one survivor has been identified. Police Commissioner G.S. Malik informed the media that the passenger in seat 11A has been found in the hospital and is under treatment. Damn, it's Unbreakable. It's like that movie Unbreakable, you know, the train crash and he was the only one to live. Local media reports indicate that 40-year-old Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, a British national, was rescued by locals. He is believed to have jumped off the plane before it made contact with the building. Jesus. According to Air India, among the 242 passengers, 169 were Indians, 53 were British nationals, 7 were Portuguese, and 1 was Canadian. Police have also released a list of 25 individuals who were injured on the ground at the crash site. Local media citing the Indian Medical Association reported that 3 medical students perished while others have been hospitalized. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that guy, has ordered rescue and relief operations. Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu and Home Minister Amit Shah have arrived in Ahmedabad to assess the situation. Let's see. So this is, I'm thinking this is from today. The black box from the Air India aircraft that crashed in India on Thursday has been recovered from the rooftop of the medical hostel building the plane plummeted into. Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, confirmed today. Earlier, the AAIB has launched a formal investigation into the deadly crash of Flight 171 that killed 241 of the 242 people on board. That is just crazy that one person survived that. And dozens on the ground. Union Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu stayed on tweet. That guy, if he lives, he should play the fucking lottery. Seriously. Boeing inspires confidence. Yeah. The Indian government is establishing a high-level committee of people with expertise in multiple disciplines. Hang on a second. To examine the incident and identify ways to strengthen aviation safety and prevent such incidents in the future. Probably don't use Boeing planes, maybe. The country's aviation regulator has asked Air India to carry out a set of maintenance actions on its Boeing 787-8 and 9, or the 788s, I don't know what that is, aircraft with immediate effect. And this is more maintenance action. So that's pretty much the update on there. One person surviving out of 242 people on board. That is just fucking amazing. That is just wow. Back here at home, we got our own kind of crash going on as far as like police crashing into protesters. Marines prepare for deployment in L.A. as protests spread across the USA. Yes, our own troops, sent against citizens. Where you at, Second Amendment? You Second Amendment people? Isn't this what you're talking? Isn't that what the fucking Second Amendment's about? To stop shit like this? Now they're all like, well, we want to get rid of the illegals, so I guess that's fine. So I don't want to hear about the Second Amendment. Ain't fucking more from these fucking people. If they're cool with this, fuck them. They're all a bunch of fucking talkers and bullshit artists. Kate says, I heard an analysis of why the guy may have lived. He was seated at door 11, which was the emergency. Oh, he was on the exit row. Huh, yeah. I love the exit row. I gotta have I'm 6'4". I can't sit in these little fucking seats with the knees up in the face. It's likely that the emergency door may have blown open and he was sucked out and tossed away from the plane yeah, that's probably what happened. But what made the door fuck open like that? Right? So, back here, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Zionist Barbie, promises that forces will continue their immigration crackdown in an effort to, quote, liberate Los Angeles, pushing back at criticism that sending the United States military into the city was unwarranted and illegal.
We have more assets now today than we did yesterday. We have more yesterday than we did the day before. So we are only building momentum,
Noam said during a news conference in the city.
This is only going to continue and be increased until we have peace on the streets of Los Angeles.
Or until you get that Palantir shit pushed through. As Noam was speaking, a U.S. Democratic senator from California, Alex Padilla, was forcefully ejected from the room while trying to make himself heard, a removal that was swiftly condemned by other Democrats. Padilla's office said that once outside the room, the senator was pushed to the ground and handcuffed. He was later released. We'll have more on that later in our propaganda watch. Yeah. So Trumpy's decision to dispatch troops to L.A. over the objections of California governor and game show host Gavin Newsom has prompted a national debate about the use of the military in law enforcement operations on U.S. soil. Oh, Yemen just launched some kaboomies at Zion. Oh, very good, very good. I mean, you know the Yemenis, they're just like, we got to do this shit again. Fuck. All right, here we go. Here we go. Yemen, man. Don't ever count out Yemen. Those guys are tough. Some 700 U.S. Marines will be on the streets of the city by today or tomorrow. Well, by today, the military has said to support up to 4,000 national. So they're sending in the Marines to support the National Guard. The National Guard is supporting ICE. This is just like a three-layer dip of shit. To support up to 4,000 National Guard troops in protecting federal property, of course, because property always comes first, and federal agents, including on immigration raids. Noam defended the use of National Guard troops and Marines alongside ICE agents and other federal personnel, saying Trump has the right to utilize every authority that he has. The state of California is seeking a federal court order later today that would stop troops from, quote, patrolling the streets of Los Angeles, quote, and limit their role to protecting federal personnel and property. California's lawsuit ultimately seeks to rescind Trump's order to deploy the National Guard to the area. There she is. Look, it's Genocide Barbie. In a court filing on Thursday, California argued that the federal government has already violated the law by having National Guard troops assist ICE agents in immigration raids. Noam said federal officers have arrested more than 1,500 people and that the department has tens of thousands of targets in the region. She said the Internal Revenue Service was investigating whether there are financial links between the protests and political advocacy groups, something of which there has been little evidence. Ding, 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 ding. What are y'all talking about? Choosy has a wrench. His shit's blue in my... come on, y'all. And then, I don't want to talk about it. What is this, Trump's parade? On Saturday, Americans likely will see split-screen images of U.S. troops on the streets of two major cities, L.A., where troops are guarding federal buildings, and Washington, where soldiers accompanied by tanks and other armored vehicles will rumble down Constitution Avenue in a rare public display of military might to celebrate the Army's 250th anniversary. North Korea, y'all. Nearly 2,000, although, well... it's like what they say North Korea is. Nearly 2,000 protests against the parade, which is taking place on Trump's 79th birthday, are planned around the country in one of the biggest demonstrations against Trump since he returned to power in January. Mostly peaceful street protests so far this week have taken place in multiple cities besides L.A., including New York, Chicago, D.C., and San Antonio, Texas. Wow. Texas governor and disgraced Muppet Greg Abbott said Thursday he has ordered the deployment of more than 5,000 Texas National Guard troops along with more than 2,000 state police to help local law enforcement manage protests against Trump and the continuing federal immigration raids. Yeehaw! Ding! Because he couldn't do anything else with that money to help the fucking people of his state. Abbott's announcement did not detail where the troops were sent, but some were seen at a protest Wednesday night in downtown San Antonio near the Alamo. That protest drew hundreds of demonstrators, but did not erupt into violence. Peaceful protests are part of the fabric of our nation. But Texas will not tolerate the lawlessness we have seen in Los Angeles in response to President Donald Trump's enforcement of immigration law, Abbott said. Anyone engaging in acts of violence or damaging property will be arrested and held accountable to the full extent of the law. Mayors in San Antonio and Austin have said they did not ask for Abbott to mobilize the National Guard to their cities. Captain Peon, what's up? Don't we all know we have tanks? Why parade them down a road that will need to be repaired? Yeah, I know. They could probably fucking destroy the tanks, the roads. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe on Thursday also activated the state's National Guard in response to civil unrest. We respect and will defend the right to peacefully protest, but we will not tolerate violence or lawlessness in our state. So you're going to arrest your police officers? Is that what you're going to do? Kehoe said in a statement on the governor's website. While other states may wait for chaos to ensue, the state of Missouri, probably the murder capital of the United States, is taking a proactive approach in the event that assistance is needed to support local law enforcement in protecting our citizens and communities. The LA protests began last Friday in response to a series of immigration raids in the city. Trumpy, in turn, called in the National Guard on Saturday, then ordered the deployment of Marines on Monday. Los Angeles was safe and sound. Wait, is this him talking? Yeah. Los Angeles was safe and sound for the last 2 nights. Our great National Guard, with a little help from the Marines, put the LAPD in a position to effectively do their jobs. Trump posted on social media on Thursday. State and city officials say Trump is exaggerating what is happening in the city and that local police have the situation under control. The protests have been largely orderly, but occasionally punctuated by violence, mostly contained to a few blocks. Police said demonstrators at one location threw commercial-grade fireworks and rocks at officers on Wednesday night. Another group of nearly 1,000 demonstrators was peacefully marching through downtown when police suddenly opened fire with less lethal munitions, or rubber bullets, I guess, whatever they use, in front of City Hall. Yeah, so it's the cops doing this shit. That Greg Abbott and Missouri Governor fuckhead. Trumpy is carrying out a campaign promise to deport immigrants, employing forceful tactics consistent with the norm-breaking political style that got him elected twice. The administration has circulated images showing National Guard troops protecting immigration agents who were arresting suspected undocumented migrants, a permissible function for the troops under federal law. But the state argues those Guard troops have crossed the line into illegal activity under the 1878 Posse Comitatus Act, which prohibits the military from participating in civilian law enforcement. That's what I was talking about. Putting your military against your own people is fucking illegal. But see, they're doing that shady lawyer shit. They're like trying to, get around this with technicalities and loopholes and stuff. For example, photos posted on social media by ICE depict heavily armed members of the National Guard standing along ICE agents during arrests, California said in its latest court filing. Unless a judge intervenes, the military's role likely will grow to include detention, interrogation, and other activities, which include disappearing, that are practically indistinguishable from urban policing operations, the filing asserts. The Trump administration said in a Wednesday court filing that the judge should not restrict the military's activities in Los Angeles. Neither the National Guard nor the Marines are engaged in law enforcement. Rather, they are protecting law enforcement consistent with longstanding practice and the inherent protective power to provide for the safety of federal property and personnel, the administration wrote. Because that's all they care about is the fucking property. U.S. Army Major General Scott Sherman, who commands the task force of Marines and Guardsmen, told reporters the Marines will not load their rifles with live ammunition, but they will carry live rounds. So if they're not going to load, why are they carrying live rounds? Why would they need live rounds? If you're just protecting the ICE people, Woo! Hakuna Matata. Thanks. Hakuna Matata. Yeah. This is just more dumb shit. And we have a little special coming up in our propaganda watch. I'll get a video by James Lee talking about L.A. And some of the things that a little shady. Something's going on here. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, North Korea said, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you. I'm out." North Korea rejects U.S. outreach. A letter from Washington to Pyongyang was rejected multiple times by North Korean diplomats during President Trump's first presidency. He engaged in direct diplomacy with Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un through letters and meetings. Okay. According to a high-level source speaking with NK News, the North Korean delegation to the UN in New York City has bluntly rejected the U.S. outreach several times. The American and North Korean leaders exchanged letters during Trump's first term with XXXOOO, which everybody knows means hugs and kisses, leading to 3 face-to-face meetings, including that photo op in the DMZ. However, Trump was unable to ink a deal with Kim after he allowed his national security advisor and pet walrus, the notorious superhawk John Bolton, to threaten Pyongyang during the second summit in Hanoi. Additionally, during Joe Biden's presidency, Washington refused to engage with Pyongyang while engaging in a military buildup in East Asia. Yeah, I like James Lee. He's pretty good. He's pretty good till he's not. That's how he works. The policy prompted Kim to reach out to Russian President Vladimir Putin and sign a major cooperation agreement with Russia, including a defense pact. Under the deal, Korean soldiers fought in Russia's Kursk region after a Ukrainian incursion last year. Following the report that Pyongyang had rejected the American letter, the White House said, "We was cool last time, bro. What's it?" No, the White House said Trump remains open to dialogue with Kim. The president remains receptive to correspondence with Kim Jong-un. House Press Secretary and former QVC host Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Wednesday, "As for specific correspondence, I will leave that to the president to answer. Yay! I'm a good girl." Notwithstanding the frozen relationship between Washington and Pyongyang, North and South Korea engaged in a meaningful de-escalation this week. I wonder if North Korea stopped sending poop over the border or trash. On Wednesday, new South Korean President Lee Jae-myung shut down loudspeakers that played propaganda messages into the North. Yeah, that's probably a good idea to stop taunting your neighbors. Pyongyang responded by shutting down its own loudspeakers on Thursday. South Korea's unification ministry said the suspension helped relieve the suffering of residents in South Korea's border areas and has become a meaningful opportunity to ease inter-Korean military tensions and restore mutual trust. Lee said one of the goals of his presidency would be to engage in talks with North Korea. You know what would be fun? You know what would be funny? If it's not going to happen. It's obviously not going to happen. But it would be hysterical if Korea actually unified while Trump was president. And then they joined Russia and China and just said, fuck these people. These people are assholes. It's not going to happen, but that would be funny if it did. Oh my sweet, sweet baby Jesus. What else we got here? Whoops. Oh, wrong one. So, you know, we were talking about the Freedom Flotilla, right? Well, now there's something else coming out of Tunisia, a group that's heading towards Gaza. We believe in people power. A North African Gaza-bound convoy rolls on despite Egypt's pressure and mass deportation. Pardon me. A Gaza-bound convoy. We got a great big convoy across the Middle East. A Gaza-bound convoy of more than 150 vehicles. One of the guys named Rubber Duck. They There's a bear in the air. Launch from Tunisia is pressing east through Libya despite warnings from Egyptian authorities and a growing wave of arrests and deportations aimed at those attempting to reach the Rafah border crossing. In the first official response to the Tunisia-led Somoud convoy, Egypt's foreign ministry issued a statement on Wednesday imposing sweeping restrictions on foreign solidarity missions seeking access to the sensitive border zone near Gaza. Any visits to the volatile border region must be conducted exclusively through official channels, requiring prior approval via requests submitted to Egyptian embassies abroad or directly to the ministry, said the statement released on June 11th. Requests or invitations outside the approved regulatory framework will not be considered. Sounds like some HR shit. Though the ministry did not mention the convoy by name, the move was widely interpreted as an implicit rejection of the group's attempt to reach Gaza's Rafah. A group of 1,500 people from North Africa traveling in cars, vans, and buses departed from Tunisia last week and passed through Algeria and western Libya. They are calling for a humanitarian corridor into Gaza amid a systematic famine imposed on the besieged coastal enclave by Israel. However, Egyptian officials and state-aligned media have portrayed the initiative as a reckless and uncoordinated stunt, or kind of like the selfie yacht, I guess, that could endanger national security. National security. That's like saying please and thank you. No, I don't want you. Go away. The organizers, however, insist they have no political agenda against Cairo. If Egyptian authorities allow us to reach Rafah, we will not use our presence in Egypt to deliver any message against the Egyptian government, the Joint Action Coordination for Palestine said in a statement, or the JACPA. Our message is directed exclusively at the Zionist enemy that is exterminating and starving our people in Gaza. While Naor, a leading organizer, said the group submitted an official request for entry on May 19th, and met with Egypt's ambassador in Tunis, accompanied by a Tunisian friend of the Egyptian state ahead of their departure. While they decided to set off before receiving a final answer, the group insists that Egyptian authorities have been informed of their plans and intentions. Despite this, Egyptian authorities have begun detaining and deporting activists who arrived in Cairo to join the convoy. Mohamed Ilyas, one of several Tunisians who landed in the Egyptian capital this week, told the New Arab that this is where this is coming from, that a fellow Tunisian traveler was arrested overnight and deported illegally the following morning after admitting he intended to head to Rafah. He added that border agents had searched phones and questioned arrivals at length. Ilyas managed to get through. Several others did by insisting on taking a touristic visit. Meanwhile, let's go see the pyramids. That's what we were saying. Meanwhile, Egyptian airport authorities barred nearly 40 Algerian nationals from entering the country, detaining them in the airport terminal pending deportation, according to Al Arabi Al Jadid's correspondent in Algeria. A separate group of Algerian and Moroccan activists who had arrived earlier were also expelled, including 3 lawyers who were held for more than 13 hours before being placed on a return flight. My son and I were denied entry to join the Gaza-bound convoy, so our comrade Jamila Azouzi, Hamid Wahid, a Moroccan activist, told TNA. A video showing deportees chanting on the staircase of a departing flight has since gone viral, with protesters accusing Egypt of complicity in the Gaza blockade. In Morocco, the National Working Group for Palestine, unable to join the convoy overland due to closed borders with Algeria, had planned to fly in volunteers to Cairo. However, on June 11th, the group announced that it was canceling its participation after the Egyptian embassy delayed processing their entry request, because Egypt's a bunch of cucks too. The group warned volunteers against traveling without official approval. Paris has also come under scrutiny after several of its citizens were detained in Cairo. According to French outlet Blast, some nationals were held without food or water, while others were arrested in police raids on hotels in central Cairo. The French embassy in Cairo stated that it had not received any official information about the detentions, despite repeated appeals from the convoy organizers, according to the French outlet. In Tunis, social media users have begun calling for a protest outside the Egyptian embassy in support of the convoy, but the convoy's organizers have urged restraint, fearing any escalation might jeopardize potential negotiations with Cairo. Despite everything, the convoy has decided to press on. Yesterday, it reached Misrata, roughly 200 kilometers east of Tripoli, inching closer to territories controlled by Eastern military commander Khalifa Haftar. Organizers worry that without clear permissions, they may face further administrative roadblocks as they approach Sirte and eventually Benghazi. Oh, you remember Benghazi? The convoy is part of a growing grassroots response to Israel's ongoing assault and blockading Gaza. It comes just days after Israeli forces illegally intercepted the Freedom Flotilla ship Madeleine, which was attempting to deliver aid by sea. And then some numbers here. According to the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, the IPC, some 470,000 people in Gaza are facing famine, with the entire population suffering from acute food insecurity, otherwise known as starving. Local health authorities say Israel has killed over, that bit. Despite Cairo's growing resistance, organizers hope the convoy will reach the Egyptian capital sometime soon and press ahead towards Rafah. We believe in the power of the people, the Libyan and the Egyptian, said convoy spokesperson Jawahar Chena, urging supporters not to spread hostility towards any authority or population. Hello, we're not doing this today? Come on. Meanwhile, in Africa, Burundi's ruling party. Burundi's ruling party wins election as opponents denounce vote rigging. This is our last story for the news. We have a pretty hefty propaganda watch coming up, so we ain't over by any stretch. It's probably going until another hour, I would assume. There's this nice gentleman there. Let's see. So, Burundi's ruling party, which has been in power since 2005, won all the seats in the June 5th legislative elections, the country's electoral commission announced, as government opponents decried what they say was a rigged ballot. Uh-oh. Nationally, the CNDD-FDD came first with 96.51% of the vote. Election Commissioner Chief Prosper, whatever that name is, said in a live televised ceremony. As none of the other parties obtained 2% of the vote, the constitutionally stipulated threshold for taking seats in the National Assembly, a total of 100 seats, go to the CNDD-FDD party, he added. The Constitutional Council is due to announce the final results next week on the 20th. Oliver Nkurunziza, Secretary General of the UPRONA Party, which officially obtained 1.38% of the vote, told French news agency AFP, democracy has been killed. UPRONA denounces rigged elections. In some constituencies, claimed Nkurunziza, the CNDD-FDD won 100% of the votes, with no invalid votes, no abstentions, and no absentees, even though in all the communes there were at least 50 candidate members, he added. On polling day, members of the National Council for Freedom, the CNL, the ruling party's main opponent, denounced multiple voting and forced voting. It claimed its observers had been hunted down and arbitrarily imprisoned. Anisit Niokuru, a legislative candidate and president of the Conseil des Patriotes, a small opposition party, told AFP that voters placed ballot papers that had already been filled in. It was a major form of cheating that was observed everywhere. Everywhere. President Evariste Ndayishimiye took power in Burundi in June 2020 after the death of his predecessor, Pierre Nkurunziza, no relation to Olivier Nkurunziza, who had ruled the country for 15 years. Since taking office, he has swung between gestures of openness and a firm grip on power, with rights abuses denounced by NGOs and the United Nations. His party, the CNDD-FDD, is accused of obstructing its main opponent, the CNL, which came second in the last elections in 2020. At the time, the CNL described the elections as a farce. In 2023, the Burundian Ministry of the Interior suspended the CNL, citing irregularities in the way it organized its meetings. In 2024, Agathon Rwasa, a former Hutu rebel who fought against the army, which was then dominated by the Tutsi minority. I'm not going to do a Tutsi goodbye joke. That's not good. During the civil war that claimed some 300,000 lives between 1993 and 2005, was ousted as head of the CNL and replaced by Nestor Shaka Khan, who was reputed to be close to the ruling party. Burundi is the poorest country in the world in terms of GDP per capita, according to a 2023 World Bank ranking. 9 million of its 12 million inhabitants live below the poverty line, Jesus, and the country has been paralyzed by a petrol shortage for almost 3 years. One Burundian analyst who requested anonymity for fear of reprisals told AFP the country is facing a, quote, very deep socioeconomic crisis marked by all sorts of shortages, galloping inflation, and more than 40% a month of increased public discontent. Oof. Yeah. I mean, Africa is kind of a hot mess anyway, right? You know, and of course our foreign policy doesn't have any, they're not helping things. What? Nobody's holding you here, Kate. If you got shit to do, what next, Bat Boy and Ian Carroll? Hey, Bat Boy wants to come on. That's fine. But I think you'll like this James Lee video. I'm not making this like a permanent, fixture, but I thought his video that he just put out recently was perfect for our propaganda watch. Sponsored by Fuckery. So the saga of Mahmoud Khalil continues, and it looks like a federal judge is finally stepping in to do something about it. And so that means Trump's going to be in court once again.
Sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets they are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Federal judge blocks Trump from continuing to detain Mahmoud Khalil over his political activism. Yay! All right, see if we can make this bigger. Can I do this? Okay, let's do that. A federal judge has ruled that the Trump administration cannot detain or deport Palestinian student activist Mahmoud Khalil based on Secretary of State Aquaman's determination. Yeah, you can't just deport somebody on feelings. That's not how that shit works. New Jersey District Judge Michael E. Farbier's preliminary injunction came in response to Khalil's habeas corpus petition. The injunction is stayed until this morning, allowing the government's lawyers to appeal. In addition to granting the request, the court ruled that it was unconstitutional to detain or deport someone based on their political advocacy. Yeah, that's called violating their First Amendment rights. In previous court filings, Aquaman has cited an obscure provision from the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. Why are they coming up with these fucking graveyard laws claiming that Khalil's activism threatened the United States foreign policy objectives? What an idiot. Today's ruling is a huge win for the Constitution and the rights of citizens and non-citizens alike, said Brett Max Kaufman, a member of Khalil's legal team and senior counsel in the ACLU Center for Democracy. No one should be imprisoned or deported for their political beliefs, and the 3 months that Mahmoud has spent in detention are an affront to the freedoms that this country is supposed to stand for. This is the news we've been waiting over 3 months for. Mahmoud must be released immediately and safely return home to New York to be with me and our newborn baby, Dean, said Khalil's wife, Dr. Noor Abdallah, in a statement. True justice would mean Mahmoud was never taken away from us in the first place, that no Palestinian father from New York to Gaza would have to endure the painful separation of prison walls like Mahmoud has. or Mahmoud. I will not rest until Mahmoud is free and hope that he can be with us to experience his first Father's Day at home in New York with Dean in his arms. The judge's decision comes days after Khalil's attorneys filed extensive new evidence detailing the suffering their client has endured as a result of his detention. The most immediate and visceral harms I have experienced directly relate to the birth of my son, Dean. Instead of holding my wife's hand in the delivery room, I was crouched on a detention center floor, whispering through a crackling phone line as she labored alone, said Khalil in a declaration that was included in the filing. I listened to her pain, trying to comfort her while 70 other men slept around me. When I heard my son's first cries, I buried my face in my arms so no one would see me weep. Farbiar's ruling does not guarantee Khalil's release from detention, as the decision has no impact on whether he can be deported for reasons outside of Rubio's determination. Khalil was detained by federal agents at his New York City apartment on March 8th and flown to a detention facility in Louisiana, where he has been held ever since. He was a permanent U.S. resident, but his green card and student visa were immediately revoked. I guess it's not that permanent. Khalil's arrest kicked off a vast crackdown on student Palestine activism that has included the detention of multiple students, although courts have already ordered some released. Khalil recently graduated from Columbia School of International and Public Affairs and has been a lead negotiator for student activists during the school's Gaza Solidarity encampment in the spring of 2024. So, at least some good news for him. Like I said, it's not guaranteed because the fuckery is like severely afoot, and people just seem to be doing whatever they fuck they want to, and then they try to do whatever they want to, and then it has to go to the courts. So these courts are just getting tied up with all of this Trump bullshit. This is what we were talking about earlier. CIA analyst sentenced to prison for releasing documents on Israel's plans to strike Iran. This is the last year, not this year. That those plans. I mean, the plans from last year, not this year. And this is fairly long, so hopefully we can get through this fairly quickly. Maybe I can do this. There we go. As U.S. embassies and military bases across the Middle East brace for potential Israeli strike against Iran, friends and family of Asif Rahman gathered inside the Albert V. Bryan U.S. Courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia, for his sentencing. It wasn't a potential Israeli strike. It actually happened. The former CIA analyst had pleaded guilty to disclosing two top-secret documents detailing a U.S. ally's planned kinetic action, a thinly veiled reference to Israel's October 24th strikes against Iran. While Rahman's actions did not prevent the strikes, prosecutors said at an earlier detention hearing that he forced Israel to delay its military strikes. What an evil person, right? Those seeking to attend the hearing were greeted by a bailiff standing outside the courtroom and a sign announcing the hearing was under seal. Sorry. That was probably rude. Around 11:30 a.m., when the hearing was slated to begin, a bailiff indicated that members of the public not only could not be in the courtroom during the classified portion, but also had to wait on an entirely separate floor altogether. Originally, it was estimated that the classified portion would take 20 minutes. It was over 2 hours later when it was announced the court would adjourn for lunch before finally opening the courtroom doors to the public. At the unclassified portion of the hearing, Judge Patricia Tolliver Giles sentenced Rahman to 3 years and 1 month of prison time and 2 years of supervised release. I guess that's ankle bracelets. She also imposed two $25,000 fines. The sentence was shorter than what the government had requested, but longer than the 13-month sentence sought by the defense. It was ultimately a shorter sentence than those imposed on drone whistleblower Daniel Hale and CIA whistleblower Jeffrey Sterling. Like Rahman, both were convicted under Article 793 of the Espionage Act in the Eastern District of Virginia. Rahman's prosecution was the first Espionage Act prosecution during the Gaza genocide, a vicious campaign of extermination waged by the Israeli government and backed by the U.S. government that has repeatedly threatened to spiral into an even wider regional war, which it probably will now after they have attacked Iran. and continue to do so. At least during the open part of the hearing, little, if any, of this context made its way into the proceeding. In fact, as a potential Israeli strike on Iran dominated the headlines, the court proceedings seemed divorced from the outer world. While Article 793 of the Espionage Act requires a defendant have reason to believe that their actions will harm the U.S., it leaves little room for motives. There is no public interest defense. As a result, public servants aware of very real wrongdoing by the U.S. government are faced with a dilemma. In order to effectively alert the American people they serve about what their government does in the dark, they must often break the law. Ramen was prosecuted on my stuff. Bella, you're the worst. But while motives may not come into play as a defense, they often take center stage during sentencing as the defense tries to show an employer or contractor's actions were guided by altruism, a desire to inform the public, or prevent some harm. Ramen's attorney, Amy Jeffress, a former national security prosecutor, stated to the court that it was certainly difficult to understand how a law-abiding individual who gave up a lucrative career in finance to serve in the CIA made the choice that he made. However, Jeffress explained to the court that the defense had consulted a psychologist who produced an evaluation of Ramen that was submitted under seal. According to Jeffress, Ramen's actions were the result of traumatic world events and past personal trauma. In a sentencing memo submitted earlier by Jeffress, the defense mentioned trauma from a threat to his personal safety during his time working with the CIA in Iraq, arguing that, quote, events in the Middle East that began in the fall of 2023 revived his traumatic experiences in Iraq in a profoundly destabilizing and unforeseeable way, unquote. Jeffress told the court that the former CIA analyst acted out of, quote, misguided compassion and in furtherance of peace and saving lives. But immediately after mentioning Ramen's attempts to achieve peace and save lives, Jeffress stressed that his actions were irrational. The defense sought to explain Ramen's sole action in psychological terms, eschewing any descriptions of them whistleblowing or politically motivated. After the hearing, the dissenter, that's where this is coming from, asked Jeffress if she wished to expound on how her client viewed his actions as being in furtherance of peace and saving lives, but she declined to do so, though she thanked this reporter for noticing she had made this remark. Whistleblowers Hale and Chelsea Manning both made statements at their sentencing stressing how the brutal toll of war on civilians inspired their actions. When Ramen spoke, he apologized to his family and stated it was an honor and privilege to serve with the CIA. He said he was sorry for harming the reputation of the CIA and stressed the important work that his former colleagues do, much of which he will never know about due to its secretive nature. And this is the gentleman right there. Much of Ramen's arguments for leniency centered on his cooperation with the government, although the government took a hardline stance against granting bail to Ramen, arguing to the court that he posed a danger and a flight risk. It's since been revealed that almost immediately Ramen began cooperating with the government. Such cooperation included giving the government access and passwords to encrypted devices, and in the words of Assistant U.S. Attorney Troy A. Edwards, Jr., he told the government, quote, what he had done, who he had done it with, and how he did it. Also, according to a government filing, Ramen, quote, provided truthful information related to others, quote, unquote. However, that information was unlikely the result in their prosecution. This cooperation initially produced a plea deal in which the government and defense agreed on a guidelines range for sentencing. However, on May 6, 1 week before the original sentencing hearing date, the prosecutors, under instruction from the Maine Justice Department, sought a dramatic sentence of 108 months, which is, I think, 9 years. They wanted 9 years, I guess. Prosecutors also filed a last-minute classified sentencing memo, as well as an unclassified letter from CIA Deputy Director Michael J. Ellis. The defense argued the court should not admit any of this into evidence as sentencing. As a result of the standoff, the judge postponed the sentencing hearing repeatedly. Incredibly, by the hearing, Jeffress noted that the prosecution no longer stood by the request for a 108-month sentence. Edwards also told Giles that the government did not object to striking the portions of Ellis's letter dealing with actual harm as opposed to potential harm. Giles ultimately refused to allow any part of the high-ranking CIA official's letter to be considered, stating that the letter alleged actual harm was caused by Rahman's disclosure, when the classified portion made clear there was only evidence of potential harm. While the prosecution backed away from the 108-month, more than the 9-year sentence, they continued the bizarre move of seeking how a downward departure and an upwards variance from the sentencing guidelines. Departures and variances refer to sentences outside the guideline range, but they are based on different statutes. In other words, the government asked for a higher and a lower sentence than the guidelines, which is both weird and nonsensical. Sounds like it. While Rahman was indicted over 2 disclosures, the plea agreement revealed for the first time earlier disclosures of classified information, as well as the role of third parties in these disclosures. The prosecution insisted that this conduct was more egregious than what was described in the initial indictment. Giles agreed, stating that the indictment failed to capture the full seriousness of this conduct, which was discussed in the classified session. To date, those earlier disclosures or who the third parties were remains a complete mystery. Giles pushed back on the government for arguing Rahman's conduct was akin to offenses under Article 794 of the Espionage Act, which covered, in the words of the prosecution, traditional espionage. Article 794 offense carries a potential death sentence. This move followed a similar bait and switch in the sentencing of convicted Vault 7, what is this, Fallout? Leaker Joshua Schulte. Like Rahman, Schulte was charged under Article 793, but the government invoked those convicted under the more severe statute when seeking a harsh prison sentence. When Giles pushed back against the government at times, she also showed an immense reverence for national security secrecy. She continued to stress the allegedly dangerous nature of which Rahman had done, accusing him of both endangering the American people and breaching their trust. Giles noted that the documents were so secret she could not have them in her chambers, yet they were floating around in the ethers and on the internet. She called Rahman's actions reckless, yet calculated. Ultimately, Giles rejected the government's request for an upwards variance at sentencing, and she granted an even greater downward departure than the government requested. Rahman's defense requested that the judge recommend Rahman be placed in Federal Correctional Institution Petersburg, a medium security facility in Virginia. There's more to this, but this is from The Dissenter, Chip Gibbons, from yesterday. So if you want to check that out, the rest of the story there, it's all there. So, whoa, what are you doing, boy? Come on. Okay. All right. We did that. All right. Well, you can go away. Oh, so this is, actually, I apologize. This is what we were referencing earlier about the American security contractor. So American security contractor unloads on U.S.-Israeli Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. We gave you a few quotes from him earlier. We're going to go a little more in depth here. So just a note here, given the value of this information and perspective, Zedio granted the author's request for anonymity in order to speak freely without intimidation or fear of retaliation. So this is in the contractor's own words, this article is. So they say, I am one of hundreds of security contractors who have been in Gaza to facilitate aid under the new U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation Project, or GHF. And it's all bullshit. I joined what sounded like a good mission with good pay through a company called UG Solutions. We were given a little information. I was told I got the job just days before we were set to depart. It was very last minute. After arriving in D.C. on May 16th, we received a slightly more detailed brief. We were going to provide security for aid sites in Gaza. It was said again and again, if you're here to get your gun on, then pack your shit and go home, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to help. I was happy with that idea. And just so you know, this is from Zedio.com from Wednesday. So The next day, we departed for the Middle East. Our group included about 300 people of diverse backgrounds, including those who served in special operations military units, former infantry, individuals who were in the military but had never deployed, and others who did not serve in the military at all but had worked in law enforcement. Some folks seemed way too old. It seemed like the company was so short on personnel that they weren't picky about who they allowed in on this. Getting gear and equipment was difficult. They didn't have enough uniforms to go around. They didn't provide optics or scopes for our weapons, like the red dots that help you aim. The weapons themselves were a whole other thing. We were eventually each issued an AR-style rifle as well as a pistol sidearm, but no one was tested to ensure they had proper training. Some of us were also given machine guns. We were later issued less lethal options, pepper spray, flashbang, grenades. You guessed it. No one was tested to see if they knew how to properly use them. How close to people can you throw a flashbang? If you're going to pepper spray somebody, where do you spray? For how long? Nobody knows because nobody told us. We're talking about people who don't have access to water, and we're ready to spray them in the face with pepper spray. Why would we do that? We're just trying to get aid. We're there to give them. It doesn't make any sense. Welcome to the Middle East. Or welcome to Israel. It wasn't just a lack of weapons training. Those of us with a military deployment background have cultural awareness training as well, something that's important when trying to connect with the civilian population. But that wasn't offered to us, including those who've never deployed before we headed into Gaza. And I'm not even mentioning the fact that these guys are also sleep deprived. Before we deployed, we were told we were going to be working 12-hour shifts, 4 days on, 2 days off. We have actually worked up to 20 hours a day sometimes, no days off. We were told we're operating within international law, but they never delineated what those laws or guidelines were. The only distinct guidance was that if you or those around you feel threatened, you have the authority to defend yourself, just like Israel. But that left a lot of gray areas, just like Israel. So you have guys with hardly any knowledge of the culture, no deployment experience, and are not necessarily qualified to be using the weapons they had in charge of security at the aid sites in a place where we know millions are desperate for aid. What could go wrong? A lot did go wrong. That was the narrator. What could go wrong? A lot did go wrong. On my first day, the second official day of the mission, we were overrun. It was pure chaos. At the aid site entrance gates, we had people waiting in 5 lanes separated by metal fencing. 1 lane was strictly for women and children. The other 4 were all men, and they were letting people in 5, 10, 20 at a time, whatever we could handle. It was not organized, and people were getting smushed and trampled. Eventually, there were so many people in the lanes that the gates burst. We fell back, letting people get the aid. They were never aggressive towards us. They were only trying to get aid. Aid, by the way, that consisted of flour, rice, lentils, tea bags, and noodles. Things that need water. They don't have any water, and we're not giving out water. We soon had to fall back again to a second perimeter, and at that point, some personnel started firing warning shots in the air. And then we fell back once more. As we were being overrun, we were directed to push everyone out, even as they still collected items off the ground. We all got in a line and began pushing these people out. We're telling crying women trying to pick up food for their families that they had to go. They were looking at this food on the ground that they desperately needed, and they couldn't take it. It was absolutely horrific. One of the guys who was the first to fire a warning shot was also the first I saw to make physical contact with a Palestinian. Someone was stooped over, picking up supplies, and without missing a beat, the U.S. contractor pushed them to the ground. I was later told that the Israeli military needed to clear those people out because they were going to come through. They soon showed up with tanks as some sort of security presence, but we had pushed people out by then. This idea that the Israeli military isn't involved is bullshit. They're very much involved. They have offices in our compounds. We share our radio communications with them. The higher-ups claim the Israeli military is not involved, but it feels like they're the man behind the curtain. Sure, they're not on site with us, but their snipers and tanks are just hundreds of meters away. You can hear them shooting all day. The aftermath of the chaos was just as remarkable. During those long hour shifts, food wasn't provided. We were given a stipend to get our own groceries back in Israel, but there wasn't much time for that, let alone to sleep. Some of our guys were eating the aid just scattered all over the site. One episode sticks with me. We were monitoring an empty site all day, sometimes after dark. Dozens of flatbed trucks finally brought aid. The Israeli military soon radioed in that 200 to 300 civilians, or that 200 to 300 civilians a couple of kilometers north were approaching. We then observed an Israeli drone go out there. This is part of that. There, shortly thereafter, that area started getting lit up with artillery. The generous interpretation, maybe the Israelis were firing between our position and the people in order to keep them from moving forward. I don't think that's the case. After all, tank fire all day long near these tanks fire all day long near these aid sites. Snipers fire from what used to be a hospital. Bombs and bullets fly all day long in one direction towards Palestinians. We know the Israeli military has been enforcing curfews in some parts of Gaza. I would not be surprised if the aid was delivered at night deliberately, given it would draw people out, at which point they could be fired on as combatants, even though they weren't. It's very clear that the Israeli military will take any opportunity available to fire. Let's see. Okay, so there's not much left here. People sometimes have to travel miles to get to the sites, and that means through Israeli-controlled areas. Any excuse the military can come up with to say someone is a threat, they'll take. There's not really any international media in these areas, and the West doesn't really want to believe the Palestinian media. So you get to this point where the truth itself is murky. All the while I've heard all day is Israeli tanks, machine guns, snipers, and bombs, but never any fire from the opposite direction. How about that? Initially, when we first started giving out aid, it was really heartening. I mean, I could cry. Palestinians were saying thank you and I love America, but that didn't last. I want to be clear. I went into this pretty open-minded. I don't have a side. I despise human suffering, and I hate it. I hate that it exists. I was just hoping to be helpful, but I don't think we are. What these American companies and contract personnel are doing is directly leading to more pain, suffering, and death for the Palestinians in Gaza. So this is an account from one of the aid workers. I think he was security, I believe, for the GHS, and then just total fucking chaos, right? You know, that you have to get this information out, right? The GHS is a fucking joke. It is bullshit, like this guy said, or whoever this person is. They got rid of like UNRWA and all these other agencies that were, you know, desperately trying to get aid into these areas, were shot at, blown up by the IDF because they had weapons. There was a basement in a aid truck or something, some bullshit. So good on them and Zedio or Zedio. I don't know how you pronounce that, but good to get that information out. Oh, spyware. You love spyware, don't you? I know you do. U.S.-backed Israeli company spyware used to target European journalists. Citizen Lab finds. Oh! I shouldn't have ate so much. Spyware from a U.S.-backed Israeli company. Whoa, remind me later. We fucking Windows doing a fucking update right now. Fuck off. Sorry about that. Spyware from a U.S.-backed Israeli company was used to target the phones of at least 3 prominent journalists in Europe, 2 of whom are editors at an investigative news site in Italy, according to digital researchers at Citizen Lab, citing new forensic evidence of the attacks. The findings come amid a growing question about what role the government of Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni may have played in spying on journalists and civil society activists critical of her leadership, and raise new concerns about the potential for abuse of commercial spyware even in democratic countries. Any attempts to illegally access data of citizens, including journalists and political opponents, is unacceptable if confirmed, the European Union's executive branch said in a statement Wednesday in response to questions from members of parliament. The European Commission will use all the tools at its disposal to ensure the effective application of EU law. Meloni's office declined the comment Thursday, but a prominent member of her cabinet has said that Italy rigorously respected the law and that the government hadn't illegally spied on journalists. The company behind the hacks, Paragon Solutions, has sought to position itself as a virtuous player in the virtuous spyware. That's funny. In the mercenary spyware industry and won U.S. government contracts, the AP found. Backed by former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Paragon was reportedly acquired by AE Industrial Partners, a private investment firm based in Florida, in a December deal worth at least $500 million smackers, pending regulatory approvals. AE Industrial Partners didn't directly respond to requests for comment on the deal. Paragon spyware Graphite was used to target around 90 WhatsApp users from more than 24 countries, primarily in Europe, Meta said in January. Since then, there's been a scramble to figure out who was hacked and who is responsible. We've seen firsthand how commercial spyware can be weaponized to target journalists and civil society, and these complaints must be held accountable, a spokesperson for WhatsApp told AP in an email. WhatsApp will continue to protect people's ability to communicate privately, Meta said. The vulnerability has been patched, and they have not detected subsequent attacks. Meta also sent a cease and desist letter to Paragon. Last month, the California court awarded Meta $168 million in damages from Israel's NSO group, whose spyware was used to hack 1,400 WhatsApp accounts, including of journalists, activists, and commercial officials. Seriously, if you're a journalist, don't use WhatsApp. Find something else. WhatsApp, oh, no. That's bad news. It's unacceptable in a democratic country that journalists are spied on without knowing the reason. We do not know how many there are, and if there are others. Vittorio Di Trappini, president of the Italian Journalists Union FNSI, told the AP, the EU should intervene. The democracy of a founding country of the Union, and therefore of the whole of Europe, is at stake. The Citizens Lab's findings showed that the use of spyware against journalists has continued despite the backlash against NSO Group, and established for the first time that Paragon was able to successfully infect Apple devices. Ciro Pellegrino, who heads the Naples newsroom of an investigative news outlet called Fanpage.it, received a notice on April 29th that his iPhone had been targeted. Last year, Fanpage secretly infiltrated the youth wing of Meloni's Brothers of Italy party and filmed some of them making fascist and racist remarks. Pellegrino's colleague, Fanpage editor-in-chief Francesco Cancellato, that's funny, also received a notice from Meta that his Android device had been targeted by Paragon spyware, though forensic evidence that his phone was actually infected with graphite hasn't yet surfaced, according to Citizens Lab. The Citizen Lab's report also revealed a third case of a prominent European journalist who asked to remain anonymous, but is connected to the Italian cluster by forensic evidence unearthed by researchers at the laboratory, which is run out of the Monk School at the University of Toronto. The Citizen Lab, which has analyzed all the devices, said the attack came via iMessage, and that Apple has patched the vulnerability. Apple did not respond immediately to requests for comment. Go away, stoppies. Paragon is now mired in exactly the kind of abuse scandal that NSO Group is notorious for, said John Scott Railton, a senior researcher at the Citizen Lab. This shows the industry and its way of doing business is the problem. It's not just a few bad apples. You're shaving your hair? Nice. Good for you there, CBC voter. I need to do that too. It's that it's about that time of year. Paragon spyware is especially stealthy because it can compromise a device without any action from the user, similar to the NSO Group's notorious Pegasus spyware, which has been blacklisted by the U.S. government. Graphite allows the operator to covertly access applications, including encrypted messengers like Signal and WhatsApp. There's no link to click, attachment to download, file to open, or mistake to make, Scott Railton said. One moment the phone is yours, and the next minute its data is streaming to an attacker. Copasir, the parliamentary committee overseeing the Italian Secret Service, took the rare step last week of making public the results of its investigation into the government's use of Paragon. The Copasir report said that Italian intelligence services hadn't spied on Cancelato, the editor of Fan Page. The report did confirm the surveillance with tools including graphite of civil society activists, but said they had been targeted legally and with government authorization, not as activists, but over their work related to irregular immigration and national security. Around the world, folks, national security is your key to fuckery. Wait, what happened? Okay. Giovanni Donzelli, vice president of Copasir and a prominent member of Meloni's Brothers of Italy party, declined further comment Thursday, saying the parliamentary report was more relevant than an analysis done by a privately funded Canadian laboratory. Citizens Lab says it's rigorously independent and doesn't accept research funding from governments or companies. I don't know. Italy and Paragon both say they've terminated their relationships, but offer starkly different versions of the breakup. Paragon referred questions to a statement it gave to Israeli newspaper Haaretz, in which the company said that it stopped providing spyware to Italy after the government declined its offer to help investigate Cancelato's case. Italian authorities, however, said they had rejected Paragon's offer over national security concerns and ended the relationship following the media outcry. Paragon has been keen to deflect reputational damage that could, in theory, impact its contracts with the U.S. government. A 2023 executive order, which so far hasn't been overturned by Trump, prohibits federal government departments and agencies from acquiring commercial spyware that has been misused by foreign governments, including to limit freedom of expression and political dissent. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security awarded Paragon a one-year, $2 million contract last September for operations and support of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as Nazis, public records show. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration has also reportedly used the spyware. In December 2022, Adam Schiff, the California Democrat who at the time chaired the House Intelligence Committee, wrote to the administrator of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, questioning whether the DEA's use of graphite spyware undermined efforts to deter the broad proliferation of powerful surveillance capabilities to autocratic regimes and others who may misuse them. So yeah, spyware, ding, targeting journalists. Are you not surprised? I'm not surprised. I'm very not surprised. Why do you look so... What is going on here? I got a weird thing going on here. Actually, you know, this one is kind of this one's kind of weird. About 2/3 of Israelis say no innocent people in Gaza. I'm surprised 64% is that low, to be honest with you, in Israel. This is from Kyle Anzalone over there at the Libertarian Institute. Good stuff there, too. Tel Aviv's mass killing campaign in Gaza has the support of nearly 2/3 of Israelis who believe there are no innocent people in the Strip. That means babies, too. Babies, you're just horrible people. Why the hell are you there? The Israeli military has killed or injured more than 55,000 Palestinian children during the onslaught. 50,000 children during the onslaught, yes. According to Haaretz, a recent poll conducted by the Accord Center at Hebrew University in Jerusalem found that 64% of Israeli adults agreed with the statement, there are no innocent people in Gaza. The survey found a wide gap in opinion between Arab citizens of the Jewish state and those who back the governing coalition. 9 in 10 supporters of Benjamin Netanyahu's government agreed with the no innocent statement, while 92% of Israeli Arabs disagreed. Of the Israelis who do not support Netanyahu, 7 in 10 who favor the right-wing opposition agreed with that statement, while 2/3 of voters who want a more centrist government said they agreed. Only 30% of those who support the left-wing opposition said the same. Tel Aviv has often asserted that its military operations in Gaza target Hamas militants and take all reasonable precautions to avoid civilian harm, which is very, very, very untrue. However, tens of thousands of children have been killed or injured in the attacks. Last month, the UN Agency for Children, UNICEF, reported that the number of child casualties in Gaza had crossed 50,000. Fucking sick. The survey results are unsurprising, as 80% of Jewish Israelis said earlier this year that they supported Trump's proposal to, quote, clean out Gaza. The original Trump plan, before it was partially walked back by officials, explicitly endorsed ethnic cleansing, as it called for the permanent expulsion of Palestinians who would be deprived of the right to return to their homeland. Additionally, the Accord Center poll found that 64% of Israelis believe there's no need for local media to report the war with more nuance or present a broader picture regarding the situation of Gaza's civilians. They don't want to hear it. They want nothing to do with it. They're just like, you know. Respondents were also highly critical of Western media for alleged pro-Palestinian bias, including the BBC, CNN, and even Fox News. Well, especially Fox News. Fox News is all about supporting Israel. What do we got? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got a few more here in the block. Meanwhile, here in the good old U.S. of A., just 12% of Democratic voters sympathize more with Israelis than Palestinians. Probably too late to save them, but, you know. This week, the Quinnipiac released a poll surveying U.S. opinion on a number of issues. One of those issues was the Middle East. U.S. voters were asked whether their sympathies lie with the Palestinians or the Israelis. 37% said the Israelis, 32% said the Palestinians, and 31% said they did not offer opinion. That's all an all-time low for Israelis and an all-time high for Palestinians since the polling center began asking voters the question in December of 2001, so about almost 25 years ago. Among Republicans, Israel remains popular, of course. 64% of them sympathize with the Israelis, and just 7% sympathize with the Palestinians. I'd love to meet those 7% of Republicans. I bet they're fun to party with. 29% did not offer opinion. However, these results require some context. That's an 18% drop for Republicans from last year. So, yeah, they were at 82% last year. And the largest amount to offer no opinion since the poll began at 29%. Wow. They're figuring it out. What's up, Chris? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Hang on a second. Did Choosy get done? Did Choosy get done writing his memoirs in here? Okay, I guess he did. Okay. Among Democratic voters, Israel's reputation is in shambles. Just 12% of them sympathize more with Israelis. 60% sympathize with Palestinians, and 29% did not offer an opinion. These statistics are staggering, but they're not altogether surprising. Israel's brand has shown consistent decline, their brand, among Democrats over the past decade, and the genocide has inevitably sped up that drop. You think? A March Pew poll found that 69% of the Democrats have an unfavorable view towards Israel, up 16 points from 53% in 2022. You see a similar dip with the Quinnipiac poll. One was carried out just weeks after October 7th. In that survey, 41% of Democrats said they were more sympathetic to Palestinians, while 34% said Israelis. In 19 months, support for Palestinians has jumped by nearly 20 points, while support for Israelis has gone down by more than 20 points. Amid this shift comes the New York City mayoral race, where Israel has emerged as a predominant issue, with the party primaries coming up June 24th. The mainstream media, the right-wing press, pro-Israel pundits, and local lawmakers have smeared candidate Zoran Mamdani as an anti-Semite for the crime of supporting BDS and refusing to publicly endorse the concept of an ethno-state. The Orthodox Jewish community is not afraid enough, Sam Berger, an Orthodox Queens State Assemblyman and Cuomo supporter, recently told Jewish Insider. While the public generally takes its time to pay attention, we do not have the luxury this year. After 2 anti-Semitic attacks in under 2 weeks, echoing the same rhetoric we have persistently warned against from the number 2 mayoral candidate, we need to vote like our lives depend on it. Yeah, you're in so much danger in New York City. Fuck off. Jewish lives will be at stake if this man is elected, declared pro-Israel New York City Council member Inagata Davida, Ina Vernikov, whatever the fuck their name is. He's going to enable anti-Semitism like this city has never seen. If he wins and true principled conservatives don't remain on the council, violence will skyrocket. Don't just watch it unfold, act, vote. I lived in New York for a while, and these people are so full of shit. Jews are not in danger there, all right? A super PAC backing frontrunner Andrew Cuomo recently sent out a mailer darkening and lengthening Mamandi's beard. Look at that. Darkening and lengthening his beard, right? I'm amazed they didn't put like a turban on his head or whatever. A recent poll carried out by Justin Brannon's city comptroller campaign doesn't just find Mamandi surging, but taking the lead. It could be an outlier, but it will undoubtedly cause panic and prompt further attacks. Good. I hope those fuckers are scared. They need to be scared. Even though I don't really believe in electoral politics anymore, but still. Even if Mamandi comes close to beating Cuomo, the race could have reverberations. I think Cuomo's attempt to Israelize the election is going to backfire. Political consultant Peter Feld told whoever this is in April. This could actually help give Mamandi the further strength to overtake him. If that happens, I think it's going to set the table for some of the primaries next year. A recent Emerson College poll found that 53% of New York City Democratic primary voters do not think it's important for the next mayor to be pro-Israel, while fewer than 1/3 think, 31% think it is. No wonder AIPAC spends millions of dollars on primaries. Hey, okay, we're getting there. We're getting there, folks. Come on, why? All right. Meanwhile, this is from Haaretz. Just so you know, U.S. authorities detained 2 Palestinians invited to speak with Jewish groups in California. How about that? 2 Palestinian activists from Masafer Yatta in the West Bank were prevented from entering the U.S. upon arrival in San Francisco on Wednesday after U.S. officials invalidated their visas. Eid Suleiman Hadalin and Adwa Hathalin, who were traveling to the U.S. to speak to progressive Jewish synagogues and organizations, now stand to be deported. While the Trump administration has made its crackdown on pro-Palestinian student visa holders a central component of its attack on immigration and universities, this would appear to be the first case of Palestinian activists being denied entry into the U.S. on political grounds, which is not surprising. Smoking my, hey, what's up, Yona? What's going on, boy? How you doing, son? It further comes at a time where the Trump administration explicitly distances itself from potentially recognizing a Palestinian state, with U.S. ambassador and pill pusher ambassador to Israel, pill pusher Mike Huckabee, effectively disavowing long-standing U.S. policy and the U.S. warning foreign countries not to participate in next week's French-Saudi conference at the United Nations about 2-state solutions. The activists from the village of al-Khair were entering the U.S. as part of an interfaith program with their visas sponsored by the Kahila Community Synagogue in Piedmont, California. They were slated to discuss the plight facing the region, which was spotlighted in this year's Oscar-winning documentary, No Other Land. They were coming here to do a speaker tour In the Bay Area, Boston and D.C., said Ben Linder, co-chair of J Street Silicon Valley, who organized an event scheduled for Thursday night at the Los Altos United Methodist Church. We have 4 different events in the San Francisco Bay Area in the next 48 hours that they were supposed to speak at. Linder said J Street contacted 3 local congressmen to try and find a solution. They were detained inside the San Francisco airport yesterday, he said. They arrived from Qatar. Their visas were very valid. Their U.S. tourist visas were invalidated by the Customs and Border Patrol, because that's what they do best. They're being held and not allowed to communicate, and they will be deported back to Qatar. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection did not respond to her request for comments because a bunch of fucking pieces of shit. This happened. We mentioned this earlier in the show too. Where are we at? Okay. All right. 2 more. All right. Very good. Very good. Very good. I told you this is going to be a long one. This might be the longest show we have. Horrifying moment in our nation's history, according to Common Dreams. Fellow senators denounce assault on Padilla. So this is what's happening. Fellow U.S. senators reacted with fury and condemnation to footage of Democratic California Senator Alex Padilla being handcuffed on the ground after being forcibly removed from a news conference that was held by Department of Homeland Security Secretary Genocide Barbie in Los Angeles on Thursday. It's really hard to come up with those nicknames on the fly. In a video of the episode, Padilla can be heard saying, "I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary," as federal agents push him out of the room. Outside the room, agents forced Padilla to the ground and then handcuffed him. I'm on my way to the Senate floor to talk about the assault on my colleague, Senator Alex Padilla, wrote the snake herself, Senator Elizabeth Warren, on the tweeters. This is a horrifying moment in our nation's history. What's next? Brown shirts, wrote Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who was likely referring to the brown shirts of a name for the paramilitary group that aided the rise of Adolf Hitler. Whitehouse added, "What do Republican colleagues have to say? At long last, colleagues, have you no sense of decency? This is insane. A U.S. senator was just violently thrown to the ground and handcuffed while trying to question the administration. We need a countrywide response to all this, to this all-out authoritarianism. This cannot stand," said Edward Markey out of Massachusetts. And Amy Klobuchar said some irrelevant shit. Sickening, said Senator Mazi Hirono out of Hawaii. This is what authoritarians do. None of us are safe. Speaking to press later on Thursday, Padilla said he was not arrested or detained. Padilla said he was waiting to be briefed by federal officials when he learned that Noam was giving a press conference in the same building. Over the course of recent weeks, I and several of my colleagues have been asking the Department of Homeland Security for more information and more answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions, and we've gotten little to no information in response to our inquiries. And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information. I will say this, Padilla added, if this is how the administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement along with a video of the episode accusing Padilla of, quote, disrespectful political theater. Outside watchdogs like the Not Above the Law Coalition, which consists of over 150 organizers, think tanks, and nonprofit advocacy groups, also condemned the incident and called on every U.S. lawmaker, regardless of party affiliation, to do the same. The images of federal agents tackling and handcuffing Senator Alex Padilla should send chills down every American spine, the coalition said in a statement. It's shocking enough to see someone manhandled for exercising their First Amendment right to free speech. That's happening to a sitting U.S. senator attending a public DHS press briefing in his own home state is outrageous and un-American. So that was wild. And she said that he was like trying to bull rush the podium and stuff. And these motherfuckers just do the voice. Which voice? What voice? Okay. I know what you're saying. But they don't quote her though. They don't quote her, I don't think. Wait. Where's see? Yeah. Where does it say where she says? Oh yeah.
Disrespectful political theater.
Okay. I hope that's what you were talking about, Stephanie. Anyway. All right. What we got next? Okay. So finally, in our John Holmes version of the Propaganda Watch, we have I don't know if you watch any of James. I like to watch James Lee's shorts, and he does these little quick hits about what's going on. And basically, it's not so much journalism as he's just asking questions and like kind of trying to pick apart these narratives, right? I'm always skeptical. When I see people doing good things, I'm always kind of like, all right, that's cool, but I'm keeping my eye on you. So this is James Lee talking about what's going on in LA and talking about like the brick piles and stuff like that. And things may not be as they seem to be.
What if everything we're watching is just a performance?
You know, I live in LA, so I decided to go downtown today and talk to people and find out what's really going on, what's their side of the story, to only get attacked and realize that they're all full of shit, okay? Can't believe any of them. They're all full of shit.
Wow, seeing is no longer believing. For example, this viral tweet of a pile of bricks in LA supposedly sent there by George Soros for protesters to use. But plot twist, that exact image appears to be from a warehouse somewhere in Malaysia. So what's the truth? Well, doesn't really matter. The goal is just chaos.
I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear. But I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
A++ performance. You could see the clouds in his eyes as he held back the tears. Powerful stuff. Until you realize that Gavin Newsom literally has an IMDb page. Actor, writer, director. So what we're basically watching there is less a press conference and more a theatrical monologue. And it seems to me that both sides are trying to fuel the chaos. For example, today there was a resolution in Congress to, quote, express gratitude for ICE. And guess what? In addition to Republicans voting for it, 75 Democrats also voted for it. I mean, not 2 days ago, Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell was out there tweeting messages like, quote, Trump continues to detain/deport innocent American citizens, even a child battling cancer. Until this stops, stay loud. And guess what? He voted for that bill today. The resolution praising ICE. He voted for it.
What you're witnessing in California is a full-blown assault on peace, on public order, and on national sovereignty carried out by rioters bearing foreign flags with the aim of continuing a foreign invasion of our country. We're not going to let that happen. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not let that happen. It's never going to happen.
Depending on your politics, you might either be pleased or alarmed by how the soldiers reacted to what Trump was saying, until you find out that the whole thing was a casting call, that the soldiers in the bleachers behind him had to be fit and not fat. If they were in opposition, they had to be swapped out. No rolling their eyes. You're not watching reality, you're watching a movie. Quote, information warfare is always a symptom of conflict, stoked often by those in power to fuel their own illiberal goals. It confuses audiences, scares people who might otherwise have empathy for the cause, and divides us when we need solidarity most. Speaking of solidarity, if you want to participate, you can. June 14th, the No Kings protest, sponsored by Walmart. Right there, paid for by Christy Walton. Christy Walton is the billionaire heiress of Walmart, worth almost $20 billion. The irony is not lost on me that a protest against a so-called king is being funded by a billionaire. Which begs the question, is she really worried about authoritarianism, human rights abuses, that kind of thing? Or is she just after cheap labor? I'm just asking the question. But I don't think it's an accident that the bottom half of China, on average, now holds twice as much wealth as the bottom half of America. That should alarm some people, right? Think about that. Why is China, where we get all our cheap goods from, why are they able to pay their workers and not us? It's almost like the chaos is by design. One side to support a massive fundraising boon, and the other to usher in a mass surveillance state. Or maybe they both want the same thing. You see, I don't think they care what side you're on, as long as you're fighting each other. Because
Bingo.
if we were to ever stop yelling at each other long enough to just look around, we might realize who the real enemy is. My name is James Lee. You're watching.
Very good, James Lee. Thank you. Chris, you do make a good point here. Sometimes I think it's too dismissive sometimes to say the whole protest is a performance. If you watch protest streams like on Status Coup, this ICE thing is really affecting people. Oh, yeah. But that's the thing. It's they muddy the waters with this shit. They take they take something where the people are like actually going after these ICE people, trying to stop them. And then, you know, you throw in your agents provocateur, and now you've got like the military in the mix, and you know, and then like I said, you know, the thing about the BRICS, I was wondering about that too. I was like, what's the deal with the BRICS, right? That they you know, they have this stockpile, you know, because that happened during the George Floyd protests. That happened during Black Lives Matter. There were people putting out bricks. So it may have been another thing where they were, you know, just throwing it out there to try and put a little, you know, shit in the stew, I guess. So yeah, that the No Kings protest is tomorrow, and as always, be vigilant, and you know, if you're going to participate in one of those things, in one of these events, please just be careful, because fuckery is always afoot, no matter where you go. So I guess coming up in about an hour, our buddy Kevin is going to be on Black Bear News. Be sure to check him out. And please donate to his GoFundMe. If you could donate or share out the link, either one is good. That's down below. And he'll take care of you too. With some great, he always does great shows. Very chill. He does good work over there, and a good community there at Black Bear News too. And tomorrow night, this fucker, some crazy guy talking about God knows what. We got the secret show tomorrow night, Saturday at midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific time. Come join us for funsies. We do polls and we talk to the chat. It's a good time. What's up, Mystery? Good to see ya. There are no taxes on your first modest home in China if you don't behave like an ass. Yep. Protest tomorrow, everyone. Sponsored by Walmart Eris. Yeah, definitely. Well, if you want some good news, one of the pits to hell is closing. It's pits to hell. Like, I'm not being figurative. I'm being literal. Earth's fiery door to hell is starting to close. So, I don't know if you know about this. The one, apparently there's more than one. The earth is dotted with numerous, quote, gateways to hell, as we're seeing the demons ascend from these pits. In the remote Siberian tundra, the Batagay crater continues to expand as the world's largest permafrost slump, while Nicaragua's extremely active Messiah's Hell caldera has spent years churning up lava and gas. But while other fiery holes, giggity, rumble away, one of the most infamous so-called hellgates is slowing down for the first time since its accidental creation. Experts monitoring the fires inside the Darvaza gas crater, aka Turkmenistan's door to hell, says the human-made inferno seems to be finally diminishing after spending over half a century burning away millions of cubic meters worth of natural gas every year. The exact cause behind the Darvaza gas crater, also known as the shining of Karakum, remains a mystery, but sinkhole's broader origins likely trace back to 1971. Around that time, Soviet geologists surveyed the region's vast fuel reserves. The region appears to have accidentally drilled into a large underground gas pocket. The team then ignited the leaking fumes to prevent the wider release of toxic gas and prevent a major environmental disaster. The geologists allegedly hoped the resultant fires would burn out in a few weeks. Instead, the blaze has continued for nearly 55 years. Currently, Turkmenistan's door to hell measures roughly 230 feet wide by 100 feet deep and often exceeds 1,832 degrees Fahrenheit. Yikes! It's estimated that the landmark attracts over 10,000 visitors every year. Meanwhile, the country's government has spent decades wrestling with how to best handle the constant blaze. People standing around it with joints. Dingo, what's up, Dingo? By a fiery hole, you mean... By a fiery hole, you mean Lauren Boebert. Giggity, giggity, goo, giggity, goo, giggity, goo. At a recent international conference on hydrocarbon development hosted in Turkmenistan's capital of Ashgabat, Darvaza's stewards say the door to hell may finally be shutting on its own. They say, oh, there's too much hell up here already. We're just going to close up shop. The reduction in fires is nearly threefold. Irina Lorieva, director of the country's state-owned energy company Turkmengez, told conference attendees last week. Whereas the crater's fiery illumination could once be seen from miles across the desert, Lorieva explained it's now only visible upon close inspection. They also added that recent efforts have concentrated on constructing multiple containment wells to capture the remaining leaking methane before it reaches the atmosphere. It's still unclear when Darvaza will close for good, but all current evidence suggests the end is finally near for Turkmenistan's door to hell. Another reason why it's closing is because I'm out of ex-wives. That's going to do it for me today, folks. Holy shit, 106 here in the Central Time Zone. Be sure to check out Willie Bragg. I think he's got a show on tonight. And also Around the World with D and Friends. Make sure you're supporting independent media, not the grifters. Save your money and be very critical of who you give your money to. Please, 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 because a lot of people will lie to you to try to get their money from you. And we don't want to see that happen. Keep it for yourself. Give it to somebody who actually needs it, whatever. Just stay away from the grifters. There's too many as we speak. Like I said, that's going to do it for me. I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend. Hope the rest of your Friday the 13th is safe. If you're out messing with these No Kings things tomorrow, just be careful. And happy Father's Day to all those semen guys who put it in a woman and made a baby. Good for you. Hope you enjoy your socks and ties and whatever the fuck you want. Goddamn right, Chris. NGZ, this is the No Grift Zone. We just want to give you information. The only thing we want to take from you is your opinions and your love, because we love you too. Y'all have a good weekend. Peace.
This is City Alpha 5. Woo!
Soon.